Hello and welcome to the 2018 Actual Tech Media Cloud Solutions EcoCast event. I'm honored to be joined on the event today by you, the attendees. We have hundreds of attendees from around the world on the event today. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us on this educational event. I'm also proud to be joined by today's sponsors. We'll be having expert presenters on from Unitrends, Datrium, Veeam with IBM Cloud, Nutanix, ArcServe, and NetApp. Wow, what a lineup. We have a great lineup of presenters and a fantastic lineup of attendees, if I don't say so myself. So thank you very much for being on the event. Before we kick it off, there's a few things that you need to know about today's event. My name is David Davis. I'm a partner at Actual Tech Media. I'm honored to be the moderator on today's event. I'm a 10-time VMware vExpert, been in the industry a long time, writing, blogging, and speaking. Before that, I was a system administrator, a virtualization admin, and an IT manager. And because of that, I feel really passionate about innovative enterprise technology and what it can do to help IT professionals, at companies of all shapes and all sizes. And that's one of the reasons that we at Actual Tech Media created the MegaCast and EcoCast event series with the goal of helping to educate the world of IT professionals about some really innovative enterprise technology to help you do it from the comfort of your own office or home or couch, whatever it might be, to learn as much as possible, to get all your questions answered, and to do it all in one online event. You don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to go to a convention center. You don't even have to take the day off in most cases, and you can do it and also have the chance to win some very cool prizes. Now, before we kick off today's event, you'll be hearing from 7 of the hottest companies in the space. Each will speak for roughly 30 minutes, and then we'll have a live 3 to 5 minute Q&A session with each of the presenters, where I'll ask some of the best questions that you submit through the console there. This event is not a competition between the presenters. There's no winner selected here today. As I said, it's an educational event for you, the audience. So before we get started, there's a little bit of housekeeping that we need to do. First off, you should know that we have some prizes. We have 3 Amazon $500 gift cards. That's our way of saying thank you, for those who take the time out of their day to help us, to participate in this event, Also, we have questions for you, our audience. We have poll questions, and I'll be asking you those questions, and I'll be sharing the results of those questions with you. And then we also, as I said, we want you to use the questions box there, the questions and answers box, to ask as many questions as you want of the presenters. I'll be answering all the questions that I can, and I'll be assigning the questions to the different presenters as they come in. So thank you for all your questions. Ask as many questions as you want. Also, you should know that we have social for this event set up. The hashtag is CloudEcoCast. I'll talk more about that in just a second. But when I'm not answering questions, I'll be monitoring Twitter, and I'll be answering questions over there, and also following any of those people out there who tweet about the event, and also retweeting some of the best tweets that I see. And then finally, resources. On that questions and answers box there, we also have another tab that says handouts. And that's where you'll find 6 different resources from each of the different presenters on the event today, as well as the link to the Actual Tech Media Events Center and the Actual Tech Media Prize terms and conditions. As I mentioned, we have 3 Amazon $500 gift cards to give away. We'll be giving those out at certain points throughout the event. You can see that on the event schedule. That's right there on the landing page. There are some legalese requirements for winning those prizes. The primary requirement is that you must be live on the event at the time of the drawing, because that's where we select the potential winners from. There are also some other legal requirements, and those are available at that link in the handouts section where it says Actual Tech Media Prize Terms and Conditions. We have supported these charities throughout the event series, donating thousands of dollars to these charities from very generous attendees on the events who win prizes, and they say, you know what, I've already got enough stuff from Amazon maybe. I'd like to help out, some people who are less fortunate. So the Hunger Project, reading is fundamental. International Rescue, PetSmart, Cancer Research. We have supported all of these. So if you win a gift card, you want to donate it, we would love to help you do that. We would even love to help socialize, if you would like, that we did that in your name. So thank you for anyone who chooses to do that. And then social media. I mentioned the hashtag is Cloud EcoCast. The event today is presented and produced by Actual Tech Media. You can follow us on Twitter. And I am David M. Davis. You can follow me as well. And if you tweet about the event, I'll most likely be following you too. One thing that you should know is on the bottom of your screen, there is a Twitter icon. And that Twitter icon, I'm actually going to make it wiggle a little bit, pop up and make it wiggle. And you can see that panel right there will actually be reporting real time anyone who tweets about the event with the hashtag. And if you tweet using that panel, it will automatically append the hashtag in your tweet. The first time you go to use this, it will prompt you for Twitter authorization between you and Twitter. And after that, you can just click submit with the hashtag attached. So I'll be monitoring Twitter. It's kind of a cool, fun way to watch the event and also watch what's going on Twitter. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that panel for now. But feel free to bring it up if you would like to do it. I also want to point out the questions and answers box, which is right there. And then there is the handouts box, which is also in the same tab. So make sure that you check those out. And if you'd like, you can maximize your slide window to go full screen like that to make sure that you see any videos or handouts or anything. But I'm going to go ahead and put it back. But you should know that this is kind of like a Windows desktop here where you can drag and drop and resize. I shouldn't say you can drag and drop. You can resize and move around these different windows to suit your desktop or laptop screen, whatever it might be. So make sure that you check that out. All right, a couple more things. If you would like to keep up to date on what's going on with Actual Tech Media, we post all of our video content over on our YouTube channel, also on Facebook. And then we have a 10 on Tech podcast that you should check out if you want to hear interviews of some of the most innovative enterprise technology folks, in the industry. It's called the 10 on Tech podcast over on iTunes. Make sure that you check it out and subscribe. And with that, I have a really fascinating keynote interview here. It's a roughly 10-minute interview with Mr. Ned Bellavance. He is the Director of Cloud Solutions at a company called Anexanet. They're up in the Philadelphia area, and they're a regional value-added reseller where they implement really cutting-edge enterprise technology, especially around cloud computing. Ned's also a Microsoft Cloud MVP, and he's got many years of experience. And I'm going to talk to Ned, and you'll hear Ned's wisdom when it comes to public and private cloud solutions. Here we go. I'm here with Ned Bellavance. He is a Microsoft MVP, and he's also the Director of Cloud Solutions at Anexanet. Ned, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing, David?
Doing great, doing great. So first off, why don't you tell us who Anexanet is and kind of what your role is there as the Director of Cloud Solutions. What do you do?
Sure. So the company as a whole is consulting and a value-added reseller. So, we resell hardware and we provide services around that, and then also app dev and analytics services. So as a whole, that's what the company does. My specific role is really around product development and solution development within the company, particularly around cloud solutions. And so that covers the range from traditional cloud infrastructure, IaaS, through PaaS and some SaaS deployments. So we do a lot of Office 365, a lot of Azure, a lot of AWS. It's a lot of fun. It's an exciting role to be in.
Yeah. It sounds like an exciting time, to be at a company like that, helping real world companies out there move to private and public cloud solutions. So I'm curious, around that, tell me some of the use cases you've seen. What have you seen companies doing with both private and public cloud?
Right. So if we can just define a little bit private and public cloud, usually when people talk about private cloud, what they really mean is like their VMware install. And that's fine. For the purposes of this discussion, that's absolutely valid. And then public cloud, we're talking about, the big vendors out there, Azure, AWS, et cetera. So what I've been seeing in terms of applications for those is for a lot of the net new applications that are being developed out there, a lot of those are taking a cloud first approach or even a cloud native approach. And what I mean by that is instead of using traditional IaaS and VMs for the development and deployment of the application, instead they're using a more modern technique where they might be using something like Lambda and one of the new databases in AWS, or they might be using App Service on Azure. So rather than having to manage the whole operating system stack of things, just working a little higher in the stack with that.
Okay. Okay. And what about, on-site, private cloud? Do you see a lot of that happening, or is it more public cloud, solutions?
So the private cloud it's an interesting space because it's a lot of just traditional legacy applications, or maybe legacy is kind of a harsh term, but traditional applications, your 3-tier applications that have a SQL backend, some sort of application middle tier, and maybe a web server, or just the supporting applications like Active Directory and Microsoft Exchange. That's generally what people are using those platforms for. But I have seen an uptick in interest in deploying some sort of container platform on private cloud, whether that's on bare metal or VMware. And a lot of that interest is around Kubernetes. So we're actually working with a client right now who has an application development team who is developing applications using containers. And now the operations team needs to get on board. So we're setting up a proof of concept Kubernetes cluster on their VMware stack so that they can try it out and sort of kick the tires.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds exciting. So what about, cloud misuse of cloud or misunderstanding cloud? Do you have any funny stories or things to share?
Well, the thing that I've seen the most in terms of misuse of the cloud is when companies decide to do a straight lift and shift of their existing VMs and applications right into one of the public clouds without doing a whole lot of homework or planning ahead of time. And a lot of times that's driven by someone at the C class level has decided we need to move everything to the cloud, or X percentage of things to the cloud, that's not a great plan or a great strategy. You need to think a little bit more about why are you moving stuff. And so for me, that gets into what's the business use case for migrating my application to the cloud? Is it going to increase my revenue? Is it going to net me new customers? Or is it going to somehow drive down my operational costs? And a straight lift and shift tends to fail on at least one of those things. Especially around costs. So if you think about it, if I've got a traditional application sitting in my VMware cluster, I've already paid the VMware licensing, I've already paid for the hardware, those are all sunk costs. If I take that same workload and move it to Azure AWS, now I'm paying a monthly OpEx cost for that application where I was paying nothing before. So when you do the sort of TCO calculation, it doesn't necessarily work out in your favor.
Yeah, great point. I mean, that comparison really only works, I guess, if you have a brand new application, it's sort of a green field. Okay, we're going to either have to purchase equipment for this application or, move it to the cloud. And then you can kind of do that comparison.
Yeah, that's exactly what I see working out better is we've got in that new application, we're out of capacity on our existing hardware. Let's deploy that in the cloud instead. And then, there's less of a capital expenditure to spin up that application initially, though you still have to figure out if I bought hardware to run it over the next 3 years versus how much I'm going to spend to run it in the cloud. Do those numbers really work out? And so for me, the approach when it comes to cloud is start with SaaS. So SaaS if you can, PaaS if you can't use SaaS, and then infrastructure or IaaS if you must. Because IaaS is generally, not always, but generally going to be the most expensive of those 3 options because you are spinning up VMs. It doesn't scale as quickly, and your operational costs are higher because you still have to patch that operating system and do all the networking for it. If you move up to platform as a service, now you don't have to worry about the operating system anymore. There might be less in licensing for that. And from an operational standpoint, it might be easier to patch and manage. If you can move all the way up to the SaaS model, like instead of running your own Exchange servers, you're using Office 365, now you don't have to worry about the application maintenance at all. It's just the administration of your users and clients. So, in terms of cost and benefit, I would go with SaaS first if I can.
Okay, yeah, you make a great point there. Just because you moved your applications to infrastructure as a service it's not like you just outsourced it and you don't have to worry about anything anymore.
Right.
I mean, you still have security, you still have data protection, disaster recovery, data, capacity and performance, issues, all these things to worry about. So SaaS, if possible, if there's a SaaS app that can just kind of do everything for you, if it's a good fit for your business,
Yeah.
sounds like a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a story about that. So Justin Warren is one of the Cloud Field Day delegates that I spent some time with, and he said, right now you have a problem that you're punching yourself in the face. Moving your application to the cloud just allows you to punch yourself in the face faster. So what you really need to do is go back and look at that application and pull out the parts that are driving business value for you, and then outsource the rest of it if you possibly can, and hopefully stop punching yourself in the face.
That's a good story. I mean, I've heard the saying, I had a problem and then I used automation and now I have 100 problems.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you've got some great, advice that you've been sharing here with us, on the cloud. I mean, for companies who are, say, brand new to the cloud and they're thinking, where should I get started? I know you said, SaaS makes a great, cloud option, but I mean, do you recommend them first to just kind of take a step back and understand what they have first? In my opinion, that's where a lot of companies fail.
Yeah, that's a big stumbling block. And one of the things that NextNet does is a cloud envisioning or strategy engagement, where the first thing we do is get a landscape of the existing IT infrastructure and applications, and then go talk to the business and see what the business actually needs to be successful, and kind of assess what's that company's core competency, because that's where they should be investing the dollars, right? Chances are that your core competency is not running email servers. Now, you've been doing it for a long time, and I've heard a lot of reasons why Exchange admins can't possibly move to Exchange, but a lot of times because they've developed some weird homegrown process that was necessary at the time because Exchange or AD or whatever didn't provide that functionality, or there wasn't an app out there that provided that functionality. That's probably not the case anymore. So maybe it's time to reevaluate your processes and applications and modernize them so you can accelerate your business, as opposed to kind of holding it back because you love having Exchange service on-prem.
And that, I think, is a great point where we should wrap up and just kind of hammer that home, that cloud is a great opportunity to evaluate what you have and consider modernizing your applications and infrastructure. Ned, we're running out of time, but before we go, I want to ask you, I know you're a Pluralsight author, you have a podcast. Tell us where to reach you and what you're doing out there in the community.
Sure. You can always find me on Twitter at Ned1313. My DMs are open, so feel free to reach out. I have a website, nedinthecloud.com, so hopefully that's pretty memorable. I do have 2 podcasts. You can find them at anexnet.com. And like you said, I have got a couple of courses on Pluralsight and some more coming down the pike.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time today, Ned.
Thanks, David. Take care.
All right, that was a great interview with Mr. Ned Bellavance. You can follow Ned over on Twitter. He is Ned1313 on Twitter. You can also find him on LinkedIn, or his blog is nedinthecloud.com. So with that, it's time for today's first presenter. That is Mr. Max Lindauer. He is a technical marketing specialist at Unitrends. Max, are you with us?
I am. Nice to be here, David.
Great. Thanks for being on, Max. Take it away.
Okay, great. So thanks for joining, everybody. My name is Max Lindauer. I'm one of the solutions engineers on the marketing side here at Unitrends. Unitrends is a backup and disaster recovery company, started in the late 80s, developed and currently still supported 100% in the United States. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the space of backup and disaster recovery today, about the Unitrends solution, about our own cloud, about how we integrate with public clouds, as well as breaking open the interface at the end, going through the UI and running through kind of how things work. Any questions, please chat in. Love to kind of hear input or feedback, or just kind of any general questions about how the product works or anything related. So just as a brief overview, and this isn't going to come as a surprise to anyone in the IT space, data is growing much faster than the people in charge of managing that data, right? So the current rate of change is that the amount of data is growing 33 times faster than the amount of IT professionals in the space. Again, not a surprise, right? Data growth is growing exponentially. We've created more data in the past 2 years than in the previous 5,000 years of human history. 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created every day. So obviously, being able to protect it, back it up, and recover in the case of any kind of disaster scenario is important for businesses, large and small. In terms of external threats that are facing businesses, a lot of focus has been in terms of ransomware. So the numbers we see are about 60% of businesses have been attacked already by ransomware, and the IT professionals I talk to daily say it's not really a if, but a when kind of scenario. So learning how to protect yourself on the front end and train your end users not to click on any links they shouldn't or attachments is an important thing to prevent a ransomware attack. But having valid backups that are recoverable and out of the network off-site is important and necessary to be able to recover if ransomware does in fact get involved in your business. And in terms of the impact of ransomware, just an example, last year the Petra ransomware attack cost $300 million for the shipping giant Maersk. Average cost of a ransomware attack is about $15,000 to $20,000 per day. Recently, the city of Atlanta had a large-scale ransomware attack that ultimately cost them $2.5 million after the fact to get all of their data back in terms of consultants and fees. So having a valid backup solution that obviously is going to be a lot lower cost to protect your data will prevent you from having to pay the ransom or having to pay consultants to get your data back if there is some type of crypto locker in your environment. In terms of downtime in general, the average cost of a data center outage is about $9,000 per minute. So the cost of being down is really expensive, and so it's really important for businesses to not only back up their data, but also make sure that it's recoverable quickly so that you can be back up and running as quickly as possible. And the cloud really helps do that, especially if you only have one major data center location. You can spin up all of your data, for example, in the Unitrends cloud, guaranteed with an SLA within an hour. And just overall, across the United States, IT downtime has cost upwards towards $700 billion just in the past year. Ransomware and then other kind of DR events contributing to that. So where does Unitrends fit, and how do we kind of address these issues of downtime and address protecting your data from external threats as well as internal threats and just kind of getting everything back when you need it? Unitrends is an all-in-one solution. So we have a physical hardware appliance locally or a software solution. Then we integrate with our own cloud, all supported again by 100% US-based support. So what does this do for you is it gives you a fully integrated solution that cuts through all the red tape and bureaucracy that can cause complexity and reduce your confidence in recovery. So oftentimes, from the folks that I speak to, their DR and backup structure and infrastructure is very patched together. There's a lot of different solutions, and they're not all integrated, whether you have a backup solution for your physical servers, another backup solution for your virtual environment, a different cloud service, maybe managed by an MSP. So there's a lot of different moving parts, and this can cause a lot of complexity. So we kind of think of this in an old world versus a new world mentality. In the old world, there's a lot of vendors, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of management, giving a fragmented, lower satisfaction, more concern, and generally these backup solutions can be just Windows deployed backup software, which is susceptible to the same type of ransomware and malware that can infect the production machines. So in the new world with Unitrends, because we're that one vendor, we give you, what we call one throat to choke, one bat to pack. So we're there for you if you have any issues. We're here to take responsibility and address any concerns and kind of get that resolved. So that's one of the major reasons why we have that 98% customer satisfaction rating. It's due to the simplicity and all-in-one approach that we have. Also, our solution is built on a hardened Linux platform with predictive analytics for ransomware detection. So you can, get your data off to a secure environment, as well as doing predictive analytics on all the data you're backing up to let you know if there is a potential ransomware attack before it spreads throughout the network. So in terms of a visual here, you can see all of the, on the right, or on the left rather, all of the different solutions that are patched together that can cause complexity and that can cause frustration and issues. Within the new world with Unitrends, it's all integrated. There's no complexity. It's incredibly simple to get set up and to manage, giving you and your IT staff more time to do things beyond backup. And especially with our cloud, we have our DR as a service. So if a DR event does occur, all that you have to do is just call into our support. We'll spin up everything in your cloud, and you can connect to your hosted environment in our cloud through a SSL VPN connection or a direct IPsec tunnel. And even if all the solutions you currently have in a mixed and matched environment are good, and they have say a 95% customer satisfaction rating, as those compound, that can ultimately cause that customer sat rate to drop. So with Unitrends, by integrating it all together, we are able to achieve a higher satisfaction for our customers. In terms of the cloud, there's a lot of different cloud vendors out there, whether they're hyperscale clouds like AWS or Azure, and they're great and they're cheap, and there's a lot of things about those cloud environments that are really good, and people are moving towards them for a lot of valid reasons. There are some pitfalls, especially when it comes to backup and DR, that we've addressed with our cloud solution. So in terms of accountability and a white glove DR service, it's not something you're going to really get within those hyperscale clouds. There's no automated testing or recovery assurance. There's certainly no SLAs, and you're one of many different customers that are going to get bottlenecked by network congestivity. And with the Unitrends solution, because it's all managed under a single vendor, it's our own cloud, you're not going to see any ingress or egress fees. There's no compute costs associated with it. There is a hard SLA to get everything up within an hour, infinite retention, WAN optimized transfer, both for physical and virtual environments we can spin up in our cloud. And again, all of this is going to be automatically tested with our recovery assurance feature. So what problems can Unitrends solve? We can solve, when it comes to backup and DR, pretty much all the concerns I've talked to people, whether it's making sure your data is backed up locally, making sure you're holding on to that data for your long-term compliance, getting data off-site, whether it's to the Unitrends cloud, to AWS, to Google, to Rackspace. We automate the DR testing, which is a huge benefit for our customers, not just spinning up machines and, say, sending out a screenshot of a login screen, but really diving into those clients, running executable tests like a SQL query or a PowerShell script, anything to really help you feel more confident that the recovery and the data within those machines and applications are valid, right? And we do that both locally as well as in our cloud. We can migrate environments to the cloud, be it AWS or Azure, back up those AWS or Azure cloud workloads, protect Office 365, and as well, again, that ransomware protection we're doing on all of the data we're ingesting through change rate and data entropy analysis. So we're able to kind of do some analytics on all the data and metadata that we're taking in from the backups, and that ultimately gives us an insight into the environment and can kick off alerts if there is a potential ransomware attack. So again, the solution, the Unitrends solution, it's a physical appliance or locally or our software. So our software is just a Linux-based VM that's deployed in VMware, Hyper-V, Xen, or AHV, and then back that up. And then we also have Office 365 protection, cloud-based with our partner organization Spanning, and a low-cost DR solution for VMware environments called Boomerang. This Boomerang solution is great for migrating your machines up to AWS, as well as just using AWS or Azure for a low-cost DR platform. It'll replicate the VMDK data to S3 or blob storage, and then spin it up into an AMI into EC2 if you need it. So in terms of how we fit, so that you have your virtual appliance or your physical locally, we can protect over 200 operating systems, pretty robust compatibility matrix all the way back to NT 3.1. Physical environments, virtual environments like VMware, Hyper-V, Xen, and AHV with Nutanix natively, as well as protecting NAS and SAN data through CIFS, NFS, or NDMP protocol, and specific applications natively like SQL, Exchange, Oracle DB, and SharePoint as well. Then once you back up your data, right, you want to follow that 3-2-1 best practice. So you want to get data off-site. We call that a cold copy to archive to a NAS, to SAN, through tape, through disk, or even archiving just directly to the cloud, like AWS, Rackspace, Google, or even the Unitrends cloud, right? And you can, of course, replicate between appliances. And then within our cloud, we do automated testing called recovery assurance, as well as disaster recovery as a service, where we can guarantee we can spin up your entire environment within an hour. In terms of how our cloud is structured, it's a little bit different than other cloud services. because it's built for backup and DR, it's only used for our customers. It's just based on what you're protecting locally. There's no ingress fees, there's no egress fees, so you just choose how much data are you protecting locally and how long do you want to hold it in our cloud. And we hold that data in a GFS rotation, 7 dailies, 4 weeklies, 12 monthlies, and then yearlies beyond that point, up to a forever retention. And because it's for backup and DR, we're not going to, like I said, not going to charge ingress or egress fees. We want to incentivize our customers to utilize the cloud as much as possible, whether it's just for getting your data off-site or if it's for full DR as a service. In that case, you would just choose the machines you want to utilize DR and add, what SLA tier you want it in, and we can then guarantee that we'll spin up those machines within an hour or 24 hours, depending on the tier that you want. And in terms of how this works, right, it's going to kind of run through this. This is your local site. It's running your physical environment, your virtual hosts, some applications, Exchange, SQL. So all your users are connected directly to your local area network and connecting to those services hosted there. And then, if a disaster occurs, you would declare a disaster with our support team, declare a disaster. You would have already worked with our engineers to create a prep kit, outline all the machines, what their IP, their gateway, their network mask, all of the networking information, boot order, resource allocation. So then we would test that and then spin it up in our cloud. So then your users would connect through an SSL VPN or an IPsec tunnel to your environment mimicked in our cloud. And then you can, run your environment in our cloud while you rebuild your local environment. And once you're ready, we will take all that data that's on our cloud, ship it to you back in a appliance. You can repopulate that data back to your local infrastructure that you've rebuilt. The environment's still running on our cloud, and then we'll ship a NAS with any changes from when we shipped you the appliance so that you have the most recent data set to restore from. Then, once you're back, all of your users would connect back to your local environment, and you would update us with any changes for future failover events. So in terms of if a disaster occurs, this is really nice because you just have to give our engineers a call. You get a call in the middle of the night that everything's down, then you give us a call, and our engineers will take care of everything. So it's a really nice kind of white glove service, guaranteed SLAs, automatically testing that recoverability for compliance sake. So it's good for auditing and just kind of feeling 100% certain that recovery will be done. And we kind of try to address the best practices to minimize downtime, obviously protecting the data, securing it, doing testing, detecting with our ransomware detection as well as the recovery piece, right? It's super important to not only be able to back up your data, but without recovery, there's really not much point in doing the exercise. So here's a quick look at what the dashboard looks like, and I'll show you this when I break open the interface. The dashboard gives you all the summary information, that automated testing you can see here on the bottom tile. So we're going to spin up those machines, test against whatever your RPO and RTO designations, and then run executable tests within those machines as well. So kind of giving you a full DR spin-up outlined by boot order, by resource allocation, and executable tests, so you feel confident and don't have to do any more manual DR testing ever again beyond just configuring the test to begin with. And then this test is going to give you, a predictive understanding of what the impact of an outage would be, not just what your RPO and RTO are and if you're hitting it, but what the actual time to recovery was. And then it gives you a full report, both in the interface as well as through email. And this gives you a huge insight into what the impact of a recovery would be, and also lets you work through any reports that you might, or any issues that you might not know about, but at least it's during a test, so and you feel confident that you can work through all of the issues with recovery during automated testing and not in an actual DR scenario. So obviously, I'm a little biased. The Unitrend solution is great, not just from my perspective, but from our customers' perspective. That 98% customer satisfaction rating really does speak for itself. Scott Yulden has a lot of nice things to say about how Unitrend has helped make his life a little bit easier, backing up the data at Mason General Hospital. But please reach out to any other admins that are using us in the space, or we can, of course, provide customer references as well. A lot of customers have, nothing but nice things to say about how Unitrends has been able to simplify and really kind of automate their backup and DR solution, both locally and then, of course, with the cloud. So again, just with one vendor, reducing finger pointing, reducing the amount of work, making sure that your business has local and cloud continuity with automated testing with our recovery assurance feature. All the data is backed up in a secure, purpose-built Linux environment. And then again, all supported, this is huge, by 100% US-based support team. So at any point, you can reach out and talk to someone down in South Carolina to take a look and troubleshoot anything you may have. So please, follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google. We're always sharing different challenges and promotions and different features. And then as well on YouTube, we have a lot of training and informational videos as well. So thanks for listening through the PowerPoint section here. I'm going to try to share my screen and get started on the UI here. Let's see if this works. David, can you confirm?
Let's see. I do see your screen. Looks good, Max.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thanks, David. So this right here, guys, this is the dashboard. So this is the Unitrends interface. You would hit the Unitrends interface by just typing in the IP of your local appliance, putting in your credentials, and the dashboard gives you all this summary information in one place, where all your backups, how your backups have been, how your replication to the cloud has been, how automated testing has gone. And again, all of this stuff is customizable. So you can pick and choose which tiles you see. You can move tiles around, bring things that are relevant and important to you front and center. On the top right here, you'd see alerts. This is where the predictive analytics engine for detecting ransomware would kick off, so you can understand if there is a potential ransomware infection ahead of time, do an internal analysis on that machine, and isolate and shut off the machine before the ransomware spreads throughout the environment. And if there's any issues or questions, you can just open a support tunnel here, and our support team can VPN in directly and address any issues or questions you have. A nice thing about the dashboard here is all the tiles are directly linked to our reporting feature. So if you were to click on what you're protecting, that'll bring you to the protection summary report. Gives you a nice pie chart view, high level of what you're backing up in your environment, as well as a full report that you can customize the columns, drill into individual columns. If you just want to say back up your SQL data or see the SQL data that you're protecting, you can isolate that and export that out to PDF or CSV. And this report is one of many reports. Beyond just the backups, replication to the cloud, you can see a full report of how that's gone. Here on the Configure tab, this is where you set up the connection between the appliance and the outside world. Here under Backup Copy Targets, you want to connect to our cloud. Simple as clicking Add Target, Unitrends Cloud. Or if you want to connect to a third-party cloud like AWS, Rackspace, Google Cloud directly, you can archive to S3. And then with the replication to the cloud, for example, you're able to throttle your bandwidth utilization so that during the week, during business hours, you're not going to utilize all of that bandwidth to replicate your data off-site. You can throttle it down to, say, 10% during the day and then 90% at night or on the weekends, just to kind of make sure everyone can continue to do their work and there's not going to be any lag or impact to the business there. Then to configure your assets that you want to protect, click Add Asset for a physical server or virtual machine you want to put an agent on, and then we connect directly through the APIs from VMware, Hyper-V, put in the IP and credentials of that host, and then we're able to go in and directly snapshot any and all of those virtual machines agentlessly. Of course, you can put an agent on a VM if you want the granularity of file level backup with our agent, or even application level backup. So here's that SQL server with our agent. We're able to isolate specific databases here. And then here on the Jobs tab, once everything's configured, you can go in and create backup jobs. On the Job Manager, it kind of shows you all the scheduled backup jobs we have, when they last run, when they next run, the full schedule here. Here's that backup copy job. So once you back up the data, then we automatically will replicate it to our cloud in a WAN optimized transfer. So it's deduped, compressed locally, and then that data is sent in that deduped and compressed format utilizing change block tracking. So only unique data blocks are going to be transferred from your local appliance to our cloud, and vice versa if you're going to be recovering data back. So it's worth highlighting how this is all set up. So if you're going to create a backup job, you do create job backup. Here are those agent-based assets. So any physical servers you want to back up on a file level, you can do inclusions and exclusions. You can exclude MP3 files from a backup if you'd like. Or, for example, if you want to tie directly into VMware and do agentless snapshotting of particular VMs, you can do that as well. You can exclude specific VMDKs from that backup, as well as have new VMs that are created automatically added to existing schedules. For example, you want to do SQL backups, you can choose individual databases that you want to isolate as well. and then you go and choose the schedule, whether it's fulls and incrementals, or incremental forever is our best practice for most of the case. So, for example, if you were protecting your VMware assets, you would do most likely incremental forever, which is just a full backup followed by incrementals. And just worth mentioning, if incremental forever isn't a strategy you're familiar with, it's not like, even if the backups coming in are independent, they're all linked together. So you can't go in and say delete Wednesday, effectively orphaning Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That initial full stitches together to the subsequent incrementals and then rolls up on the back end to give you a full restore point. So any incremental point you can do a full recovery from. And even though incremental forever is best practice, we're not going to tie your hand or force you into any one backup schedule. If you prefer fulls on the weekends, incrementals during the week, you can do that. If you want to do fulls and diffs, you can do that. You can even go in and do a custom schedule and kind of drag and drop and pick and choose when you want these specific types of backups to run. So there's a lot of flexibility here from the solution. So we're certainly not going to force you into any one way of doing things, though we do have our own best practices. And then for a backup copy to the cloud, same deal. So once the data is backed up, you choose the machines you want to replicate off-site. Here, it's going to just load up all the backup copy targets we've configured. And you can see here the schedule. This would be for archiving. If you're going to write off to tape, to disk, to a NAS device, or even to like AWS or Google Cloud, you can just choose your schedule, choose the data range, the retention period. A lot of flexibility and a lot of ability to customize how that archiving works. If you're going to replicate directly to our cloud or another appliance at a second site, there's no scheduling needed because it's all automated. Once the backup lands, it'll then automatically get replicated off to the cloud. And the nice thing here about Unitrends, because it's all one vendor, there's not a second cloud interface. It's all managed right here through your local appliances UI. So if we go to the recovery tab here, you can see all the machines that we're protecting and all the point in time that we've run our incremental backups. You can do a full recovery from any point in time, directly recover files, as well as the full VM and recover that VM in minutes if needed. If I go here to the right, you can see these different filters. If I filter by backup copy hot, that's going to take all the machines that we've replicated to our cloud. And you can see here, if I click on that machine, all the timestamps are now in purple. This just connotates that the data is not hosted locally, right? It's hosted on the cloud. And you can access it directly from your local appliances interface, click on a point in time, recover files directly as if it was locally. You can go in, find the file or shares that you're trying to restore, and restore them back to your local environment. As well as import that backup back to your local appliance to do a bare metal restore or a full VM restore, as well as we have the ability to spin up those machines in the cloud. There's no DR interface. You would just call our engineers, they would spin up your machines, and then you would connect through the VPN and RDP to the machines that you're looking to access. Worth mentioning here is also that SQL data. So if I filter, this is your local backups, this is specific databases. Because we're truncating those backup logs here, we're able to recover specific databases down to a specific point in time, down to the minute. So it gives you a lot of granularity, a lot of flexibility to restore specific databases, or you can just quickly restore that entire SQL machine from the snapshot backup that we've done from the hypervisor. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of different options for how you get your data off-site, whether you're using our cloud, whether you're using third-party clouds. We're not going to force you into any one way, but we certainly give you the option to choose what makes the most sense for you and your environment. As well as the ability to build replicas. So this replica feature, you can create cold copies of any VMs that are constantly updated with the latest backup on a secondary host, whether that's on-prem or on a second site. And we're actually utilizing the same technology in our cloud to guarantee spin up within an hour. And then, I want to quickly touch back on the automated testing piece because this is a huge benefit to our customers. You can choose all the machines that you want to test. Let's, for this example, just choose an AD server and our SQL server and a file server. So you choose those machines, you choose whatever the RPO and RTO is. You can create different profiles for different tiers of machines with different compliance requirements. You choose the schedule, how often you want this DR test to run. And again, this is all automated, so there's no manual, once this is set up, there's no manual interaction required. And then you go in and really kind of define the options for that restore test. So for example, the AD server is going to boot first. SQL Server here we're going to want to boot second so it can connect to AD. You can configure your CPU and memory here, as well as the location of the restore, what data store, what network. You're going to want to do a secondary network for DR testing so it doesn't impact your production environment. You can re-IP the machine on the restore. And because this is a SQL server, we can run a specific application test. So there's a lot of options. You can run a PowerShell script, a malware scan, an Exchange, DAG test, number of Exchange tests. Here, for this is SQL, we can do a SQL query. So we'll connect directly to AD and then run a query with an expected output that gives you confidence and reassurance that the data within that application is valid. Beyond just the machine being able to boot, we're actually able to go in and test that the application data is valid as well. And this is all automated. It spins it up in its own network, tears it all down, and then sends you out the report. So in terms of how that report looks here, if I click, I bring my email in, this is how the report gets sent out through email reporting. And this can be to you and whomever else in the organization wants to make sure DR testing is being accomplished. This report will get sent out automatically to you and whomever else cares. And it gives you every step of the process, if there are issues, what the errors are, and what you can do to remediate that. And again, if you have any questions, always can reach in our support team in South Carolina. So kind of walk through, this is pretty brief, the dashboard, reporting, how to create your jobs, recoveries. The Protect tab, again, you can kind of go in and get a high-level summary of all the machines you're protecting, go and create those backup copies. We also have an SLA policy job option. So this is if you have specific machines that all fall within the same compliance requirements for RPO and retention, you can just put all of that information in one place, and then that backup schedule and replication of the cloud schedule will all be set based on those requirements. So it's really simple and kind of brings it all together in one place. So hope everyone kind of enjoyed this quick fly-through of the Unitrends interface and the presentation. David, I'll kick it back to you if there are any questions.
Yes, great demo, Max. Thank you. We do have a number of questions for you here. One of the questions that just came in from Joe, he's asking, who else has access to the backups in the cloud besides the end user? In other words, is there some way to kind of control access to, what can be restored?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope I'm understanding this correctly. So you can encrypt all the data at rest and on the fly with your own passphrase, AES 256 encryption locally and in our cloud. So none of our cloud engineers have access to the data. In terms of picking and choosing what machines can get spun up, absolutely. So for our DR as a service, you can choose what machines you would like to be included in that bundle to spin up and kind of specify that interaction. But our engineers aren't going to have direct access to your backup data. Just going to be able to connect to the hypervisor and turn them on.
Okay, makes sense. Another question here, they're asking, why would someone go with Unitrends Cloud to protect their data versus AWS?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it really kind of depends on your use case and what you're looking to do. So AWS is really cheap for data storage in S3, right? To get your data there, it's really not very expensive. What happens, though, is that to bring your data back in the time of recovery, that's going to cost you a lot of money. And with the Unitrends Cloud, there's really no added charges, so it's more of a fixed cost that you can expect. There's not going to be a huge variable cost depending on actually utilizing that service. We actually have a cloud cost calculator that we've created that kind of has different variables that you can input depending on your environment that gives you a full total cost of ownership understanding of what the cost would be with AWS versus the Unitrends Cloud, for example. And then another real quick thing to mention, DR is one of those things that we invest in because we know we have to, but it's something that we really never want to use, right? When we're investing in a DR solution, we're hoping that we never lose our on-prem environment, that we never actually have to utilize it. With Unitrends, we give you a hard, guaranteed SLA for recovery time, which is nice, right? Because if you're paying for something you don't want to use, you want to make sure that there's some accountability. There's some teeth there to guarantee that it's actually going to work for you. With AWS, there's no SLA. There's no real accountability for getting all of that up. You're one of, millions or thousands and thousands of customers. With Unitrends, it's really a white glove service. We're a very customer-focused organization, so there will be guarantees and there will be confidence in that recovery process.
Okay. And then another question here is, if I can't get access to my server, how do I spin it up in the Unitrends cloud?
Right, that's a great question, and it's really as simple as calling our engineering team. So the data is backed up locally and then replicated to our cloud every time the backup completes. So there's a copy of your data, your on-prem environment, replicated in our cloud. And if you've opted for the DR as a service option, we've already pre-built out a replica in our cloud on the hypervisor in our cloud data center. So all you would have to do is just call our engineers, and again, our engineering team is and support team is down in South Carolina. An L1 engineer will answer the phone. There's no receptionist. There's no auto teller. You would declare a disaster, and we would follow the prep kit that you and our engineers had already worked through to get everything up and running. Then with the SSL VPN that we provide you, you'll be able to connect to that environment. So you don't need access to that on-prem server to spin it up in the cloud. And it's a white glove service. It's not something you have to manage. It's something that we handle on our side.
Okay, great. And then probably the last question we have time for is, what flavors does Unitrends come in? Is it hardware and a virtual appliance? Do you use one or the other, or how do you select?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I'm talking to folks who are looking between the options that we have, so we do have a physical appliance, and that's a nice thing about the physical appliance is because it's made by us and supported by us, we're not just supporting the software, we're also supporting the hardware. We'll ship you new drives if any drives are failing. The whole appliance itself is under warranty. There's no licensing for the amount of virtual machines or hosts or physical servers you're protecting. It's just a capacity-based model. With our software, because you're using your own hardware, we don't really care about how much data, but we do have to license the software out based on resources, so based on the number of physical servers or the number of physical CPU sockets on your virtual host. So when it comes to which is better, they're both the same software. Ultimately, dollars make decisions, right? So if you have a lot of data, but it's not held on a lot of different servers, the software licensing might be much cheaper, and you can use your own hardware to do that. If you have other hardware laying around, you can utilize that. If you don't have a ton of data, but it's spread out, software licensing could be cost comparable or even more expensive than the hardware. So depending on kind of how your environment is structured, that kind of helps you determine what the best option is. They're both the same solution, the same functionality. It just kind of differs in terms of the pricing model.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, a great presentation, Max. Great demo. I love seeing the product, live in action. There's a lot more questions still there for you in the queue. If you don't mind answering those and maybe sharing those answers with the audience, I would really appreciate it. I know they would too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, David. And everybody, we have some handouts available for more information about our cloud and our DR option available here on the EcoCast as well. So thanks so much, David. Enjoyed the presentation as always, and look forward to answering everyone's questions after the fact.
Excellent. Thanks, Max. We are moving on to our next presenter on today's event. A lot of great presentations lined up today. The next presenter on the Cloud EcoCast today is Tushar Agrawal. He is the Director of Product Management at Datrium. Tushar, are you there?
Hi, David. I'm there. Great job pronouncing my last name. That was a good one.
Thank you. Well, thanks for being on the event today, Tushar. I know there's a lot of exciting things going on at Datrium. Take it away.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My pleasure. So, hi, everyone. As David introduced me, I'm Tushar. I'm the Director of Product Management here at Datrium. I've been in the data center industry for close to 10 years, spanning sort of across servers and networking and I/O and hyperconverged, etc. So, it's been a great sort of experience at Datrium, and kind of want to talk about making hybrid cloud easy and economical. And it's kind of a little bit of an educational presentation based on kind of what my learnings have been and kind of what we are seeing out there in the industry. So hopefully you kind of have a good time and kind of take away some good learnings from this presentation. So if you look at hybrid cloud, there are two perfect use cases for hybrid cloud, right? There is consolidated backups and there is on-demand disaster recovery. Consolidated backups, kind of think of it as that offsite copy that you can push onto a public cloud platform which helps you eliminate that backup only site that was keeping that data around, but also provide you with much faster access to that data, right? Compare that with tapes, where these tapes have to be sort of physically moved before you can actually get data. Or think about all the different sites that you have, each of which have different portions of your backup. And so kind of think of cloud as that consolidating facility and providing you the ability to actually eliminate multiple sites that you need to keep, and kind of keep a single source of truth for all your data that's backed up. On the disaster recovery side, think of it as kind of imagine what would it be like for your economics, for your flexibility, for your pace of innovation, if your DR site was actually a true on-demand DR site that only got spun up when you had an event, either you were having a test event or you actually had a disaster. So think about this as what would I be able to do with my dollars, with my resources, if I didn't have to keep up and manage my DR site and I just had it on demand in a public cloud environment. So those are the two use cases that Datrium is focused heavily on at this moment. For those of you who have not heard about us, I'll just kind of give you a quick update before I jump into the next few sections. We are a tier 1 hyperconverged platform. And so all that you're listening or you hear about this in this presentation is essentially in addition to a very fast, very efficient primary workload platform, in addition to having native backup capabilities and the ability for you to backup and DR to the cloud. So this is a holistic converged platform that converges, primary, backup, and cloud. So let's kind of move on and look at, all right, so if backup is such a good use case, what are the challenges today, right? And if you kind of read this note from Gartner, and this is from a report where they have how to leverage public cloud IaaS for backup and recovery, you'll see that the main challenge that they outline is that a lot of vendors are claiming ability to put data in the cloud, but what's not really clear is how efficient are their implementations. And so that's really the challenge. And that's the advice from Gartner is before you invest in a backup to cloud solution, you should really dig deep and understand why and how are they able to make that data storage in cloud efficient. So let's look at some of the challenges that we've observed as we've spoken to hundreds of customers. This is sort of a typical workflow that you have when you have a primary storage system. So there are two sites here. Each of them have some servers on which you're running your applications. You maybe have a SAN on which you're essentially running your primary workload, could be an all-flash, could be a hybrid. And then you have another system, which is a separate backup system. And that backup system is essentially one more thing to manage. Right? So that's sort of the first challenge that people see is now I need two things to learn. I need two copies of my data, even on a single site. Now, there are two such sites. Imagine that you have a multi-site environment. Each of these sites are essentially sending data to that global backup pool in the cloud. But unfortunately, since this is a direct backup to S3, there is no intelligence in the cloud that is able to sort of consolidate this data being sent from multiple systems or multiple sites into a single global pool of deduplicated and globally deduplicated and forever incremental data pool. So it's sort of each site sort of has its own section in the cloud, which really means that you're storing a lot more data in the cloud than you should be. And so each site is maybe doing local dedupe, and so there's definitely a local aspect of the deduplication that you can take advantage of, but it's not global. It's not across all your sites. Now, what happens when you have to pull data back, right? So when you have to pull data back, and let's say there is a disaster and site A is no longer available, and site B is sort of where you want to pull data back, now what happens? Now all data that was sent by site A has to be resent to site B, which means you don't get any egress benefits. You have to transfer a lot of data. And cloud vendors, as you all know, charge for egress costs. And that means that when you have to deal with a disaster, you have to deal with a lot of costs. And then lastly, what happens when you bring data back? So first of all, you're transferring a lot of data back. And secondly, that data hits your backup system where it can't really run for in a meaningful way for production. And so you have to rehydrate it and export it back to your primary system, all of which increases your RTO. So basically 4 challenges, right? There is multiple systems to manage. There's no global deduplication across multiple systems or multiple sites. In addition, the snapshots that are sent in most implementations that we observe, they are a combination of fulls and incrementals. So there are some fulls and there are some incrementals, and then there is a full again, and there is some incrementals, which really makes your cloud cost really balloon up quite a bit. So let's look at a different approach, and let's look at what Datrium brings to the table. So Datrium has a cloud DVX product that you can buy in addition to the Datrium DVX on-prem hyperconverged product. And so that product is essentially where you can run your workloads at tremendous amount of performance, faster than most systems out there. It's very easy to manage. In addition to that, it helps you send your data to the cloud using Cloud DVX, which is our software-only product. So what does Cloud DVX offer? It offers a really high level of efficiency with global deduplication and true forever incremental across sites. So this is not just an incremental at a local snapshot level. This is actually incrementals that are across sites, that are within the sites. And so you're kind of keeping a single source of truth in the cloud, dramatically reducing your costs. It's really low RPO and RTOs. We can take snapshots every 10 minutes. We can essentially, bring back data from the cloud directly to your production system. No hydration required. In fact, the amount of data that is transferred from the cloud back to on-prem is also quite minimal because it all gets deduplicated. And only the unique data that is not already on the site gets transferred. So there's no rehydration. And I'll show you a demo at the end. You'll see how fast our restores are. I mean, in most cases, the delta between what's in the cloud and on-prem is not that much. And so the restores from cloud are really, really fast. And lastly, it's really simple. Why is it simple? There's no separate backup system to manage. The primary system is capable of taking very granular snapshots. It can take up to 1 million snapshots. It's sort of point in time consistent for a variety of applications. And it's nothing for you to configure. We have developed the product in a manner that with a few clicks of a button, which we'll see in the demo as well, you can set up your cloud site in a matter of a few clicks, and everything that you need to manage on the system can be done from that same user interface. You don't have to learn AWS. You don't have to learn another backup system. You can do all these operations from the VMware vCenter console, which is where we provide our UI plugin, and it integrates beautifully in that environment. So you get true VM lifecycle management all from one console. So let's look at how Datrium does it differently, right? So Datrium, you have the DVX platform. And on the DVX platform, you have compute nodes and you have data nodes. Compute nodes is where our software runs. Data nodes is where we keep an authoritative copy of the data. When you snap the data lives on the data node. And that gives you one single converged system that is able to take 1 million snapshots, that can take a snapshot every 10 minutes at a VM granularity, or even at a vDisk granularity. Or it can take snapshots that are point in time consistent for SQL, Exchange, or Active Directory. Now, once you have those snapshots are then replicated to our Cloud DVX offering, which is running in the AWS, in this case, in cloud. And we leverage an EC2 instance in the cloud which is able to globally dedupe data that it's receiving from multiple sites. So you will see that any transfer that happens to the cloud is first checked for redundancy. And if there are any duplicate data, that data does not need to be transferred again. So you see a single forever incremental set of data points in the cloud, which dramatically lowers your cloud costs. And we'll kind of show you some third-party validated numbers that'll kind of probably make it really real for you and very exciting. But what's also interesting is, let's say the first site goes away and you have site B, and you need to pull data back to site B. All transfers that we do on the wire will basically be unique transfers only. And so data does not need to be rehydrated. Data goes in that unique sort of format to the target site, which is site B in this case, and it can just be restarted. There is no hydration required. There's no export required. The data is running on a production platform that is as fast as it gets. So dramatic simplicity, dramatic cost of ownership savings. We actually did an analysis with ESG. They have an economic validation team. We have our own internal calculators for calculating how much cloud costs would you have compared to, comparing an S3 direct approach with the Datrium solution. And it was 10x lower. And I'm not kidding, this is actually true. This is 10x lower. And this is really a combination of, global deduplication, as well as the forever incremental savings that you can get in the cloud. Bear in mind, this does not even include the savings that you get because you converge your primary and backup. And so think about all the operational savings, think about all the infrastructural and capacity savings and all the networking savings and space savings. Those are all in addition to that. So really compelling. Now, in addition to that, all transfers that we send to Cloud DVX or in AWS, which is the cloud we support today, are encrypted end-to-end without any requirement from the customer side. So if you're sending this data over regular internet connection, or if you're sending this data over WAN, we encrypt that data right from when we receive it on the hosts, and then it stays encrypted all the way as it goes to the cloud. It's FIPS 142 validated, and there is no VPN requirement. So all data that is being sent to the cloud is encrypted without you having to do anything. What do we do in the cloud? So what we do is we use an Amazon EC2 instance. That instance is where the Cloud DVX software runs. It's the intelligence, is the smarts that enable us to do global deduplication and true global forever incremental, which is kind of what results in a dramatically lower amount of capacity that you need to store in the cloud. All data is stored in S3 standard. We use S3 standard because it's the best blend of cost and RTO. So this is the media where you can read and data in a quick way when you need it to. And the beauty about our platform is that we can essentially write to S3 in a very efficient way. So the way our architecture works is that we sequentialize all the IO before we actually write it. And we write it in large 8 megabyte containers, which is, if you kind of know how AWS charges, they actually have an operational cost, which means every operation that you perform on S3 also has a certain amount of cost. And so the way we optimize it is by reducing and kind of reaching this right number of container size that we need to write to S3, which makes S3 performance fast, as well as reduces those operational costs on S3. And the last piece, which is really the brains of this offering, is Lambda functions. So we heavily leverage Lambda functions in order to automate, everything about this product. And you'll see that in the demo. So as soon as you do a couple of clicks, all resources that are required for this offering in Amazon are automatically spun up. We have the ability to automatically upgrade all of that. And we have the ability to self-heal automatically. So if we have an EC2 instance that goes down, we can automatically repair it. If you have a VPC that you configure differently, we can repair it automatically. So we are basically making this, seamless from your side. And so all that you have to do is essentially, focus on your protection policy on the on-prem system, and everything else is taken care of for you. So let me summarize this. So Cloud DVX, extremely simple backup and recovery service that leverages the power of DVX on-prem and leverages the power of Cloud DVX on AWS today, provides globally deduplicated and forever incremental data in AWS for 10x lower costs, and provides a much, much faster RTO back to on-prem today, essentially because you can restore only unique data, that data that you don't already have. You can restore at a VM level, you can restore at a VMDK level, you can restore at a guest file level, and you don't have the next step of rehydration like you have with traditional backup systems. And if you kind of look at the pricing, so this is an example from our calculator, 50 terabytes of logical data spread across 4 sites. We typically get a 4.5x data reduction on our platform, so kind of count that. We can count on another 1.5x in the cloud. This is the 1.5x is across these different sites, which were isolated, and now the cloud can see all of them. And assume that there's a 2% daily change rate, a 60-day retention. All you're paying is $1,000 a month. And this includes the Cloud DVX piece. This includes the AWS piece. This is basically your second site for backup. And that's all you have to pay to keep that amount of data. So really, really compelling. Now, this is just step one, right? So what Cloud DVX does is give you the most efficient way to keep your data in the cloud. But what's really critical is if you have a much, much lower RTO requirement, you want the ability to instantiate and run that data in the cloud. And so what Datrium is working on is a solution that's tailored to VMware Cloud and AWS. And I'll get into that in a minute and why we decided to do that. It's very critical that you learn about the advantages and differences between the different approaches. Our goal is to give you true on-demand DR. And by that, what we are trying to accomplish is essentially have data in Cloud DVX that can be run on VMware Cloud and AWS environment in AWS when you have a test event or when you have an actual disaster event. What it means for you is you're not paying for the DR site unless you're actually using it. So that's the big advantage, right? Secondly, it's extremely easy to manage. There is nothing, everything is from vCenter. We provide DR orchestration as a service from the cloud. And so all your plans are in that cloud service, nothing to install, nothing to manage on-prem. It's one UI from which to manage both the cloud as well as the on-prem environment using the vCenter. It's extremely efficient. So you're only paying in cloud for keeping that snapshot data in Cloud DVX all the time. And then when you instantiate it, it's only then that you pay for the actual VMC cost. But really importantly, it's VMware to VMware. And this is a really important point. And this is something that I'll highly encourage you to check on, before you sort of commit to an instantiation service in the cloud. It's, conversion of a VM from its native format to AMIs in Amazon is a little tricky. It doesn't always work. And we have a lot of customers that we talk with that kind of have to do all kinds of crazy compromises to kind of make it work. And in this solution, you're basically getting a VMware to VMware DR solution. It's truly on demand. There's no conversion required as VMs are running here and VMs are running in cloud. And it's all managed from a single user interface. It also allows you to leverage all the Amazon services on your data when it's running on VMC. So you really get sort of that real hybrid cloud use case with the benefit of on-demand pricing. So let me sort of step back now, right? So I think we covered the cloud part. So we kind of, talked about our cloud backup and cloud DR capabilities. And so a lot of, good technology foundations kind of already there. You have the ability to back up to cloud DVX. Very soon we'll be adding the ability to DR and instantiate in the cloud without any VM conversion, single UI interface, on demand. But Datrium is a lot more, right? So Datrium DVX, as I think of it, is a data lifecycle platform. And so we are a phenomenal tier 1 hyperconverged platform on-prem. We can integrate your backup in the same system with the granularity, with the RPOs and RTOs that are much, much better than what you get traditionally. And we provide you with the cloud DVX and cloud DR capabilities that are all integrated into the same platform. Net, this is a 10x win, right? So you get a lot more performance with our tier 1 HCI platform. You can run your most mission critical workloads on this at scale. You get a much, much faster RTO and a much, much lower RPO. And you get 10x lower AWS costs when you're going to the cloud. So, we've been in the market for about, a couple of years or more. We've had a tremendous traction. We were the 2017 product of the year. We've also been the Gartner Cool Vendor, so a lot of recognition on that. But this is my favorite. And I think I would highly encourage you to go take a look at this Gartner Peer Insights. We are the top rated HCI vendor out there today. And if you look at all, collectively, we are 5 out of 5 across about 56, and this keeps increasing. So we might be, above the 55 reviews right now. Our customers love how much we have simplified their environment, how fast, we have this platform. Kind of see some of the quotes here, faster than anything we have ever seen, dramatic, ease of use and excellent performance. It's kind of running, some of the core applications for a lot of customers. So great foundations, great technology, and something that you can, truly use to consolidate and simplify a lot of your infrastructure today. Tremendous customer adoption. So, I think we are over 300 customers in a very short amount of time, growing rapidly, and a really strong team behind it. So one of the reasons why we are able to do this primary and backup convergence is because of our heritage in data domain. And all, a lot of you might be familiar that they really transformed the disk backup market with inline deduplication and compression. But also some of the very early engineers from VMware that essentially bring to us this ability to kind of do great primary without, sort of at the same time doing great backup without affecting the primary from a performance, from an efficiency standpoint. So strong team. Let's sort of now look at the demo. So before I go there, quick summary, right? So Cloud DVX can back up to the cloud. DR orchestration is coming soon. It's going to be on VMware Cloud on AWS. So you don't have to convert your VMs. It's all seamless. And you get 3 capabilities all in the same platform. So this is a quick demo. In this, you'll see how easy it is to set up a Cloud DVX instance. You put your access keys in the UI, and you can provide it a label, and you click next. So you bring your own AWS account, and that's it. All resources in AWS have been spun up for you, and your system is ready to replicate. So you can see that the system is ready, and it can now start sending data to Cloud DVX. So what we'll do now is look at a protection group. We'll click Edit. And this is a very simple policy-based method for you to start taking snapshots. You can specify your policies. You want to retain your snapshots locally and in the cloud with different retentions. And then you say Finish. And that policy starts activated, and you can start sending data to the cloud. We'll look at some retrieve scenarios now. So this is a protection group that we had earlier configured. These are all snaps that are local to the on-prem system. You can click on Show Remote Snapshot to see all the snapshots that are now in the cloud as well. So you can see that these are the snapshots everything with AWS Cloud DVX that are in the cloud. You can bring back a full protection group, which is a collection of VMs that were snapped point in time consistent. And so we'll go ahead and click retrieve. And want to kind of keep it for 24 hours here and click retrieve. And you'll note how fast it happens. It actually happens within a minute. And that's because there is not really a lot of data to transfer. It's because we deduplicate everything before we send anything. You can also drill down and retrieve just a VM. And you can see on the right, you can also retrieve just the VM DKs. Or you can retrieve just the guest files from these snapshots that are in the cloud. All of them reduce your egress cost. Again, super fast. So that's the demo. It's really simple. I didn't want to kind of spend a lot of time on this. Demo should be actually, not much to do. Those are the best demos. And so let me kind of, close it at this point and let me summarize, right? So a great HCI platform, server powered, great performance, great resiliency, very simple administration, all from vCenter, not much for you to do actually, great efficiency all the time, always on deduplication, compression, erasure coding, blanket encryption all the way, sort of from your on-prem to your cloud, granular data management, and phenomenal cloud economics, as well as simplicity and RTOs. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to David for Q&A.
Yes, great presentation, Tushar. Also like seeing the demo there as well. Always good to see the product in action. So yeah, there's a number of questions here for you. The first one is about is Datrium hardware, software, or both?
Great question. So Datrium is hardware and software. Now, the unique value proposition from our platform is that you can bring any server, and that's a little bit different than typical hyperconverged platforms. We support rack, blades. In fact, a lot of our customers have Cisco UCS blades, which are not really supported by most of the hyperconverged platforms. And the reason is that we don't use host for data durability. We use hosts only for its CPU, and we run our software on that host. That is where all of our data services are running. But all the durable copy of the data is stored in the data node. And so you can bring any server you want, be it your older generation servers, new generation servers, so you save a lot of cost. All of the local flash can be commodity. And we use local flash as a super cache. So all your local workloads, all your reads are coming from local flash. So they're much, much more faster than what you would see even with an all flash array. And so you can buy your own server. We also sell our servers. That's only if you want single point of support. And then you have to buy the data node, which is, if I go back, if you kind of see my slide still, you'll see that the white system is the data node. It comes in disk or flash. And so you buy software if you're bringing your own compute servers, and you buy the data node, or you buy our servers in which you can run our software, and you buy the data node. That's the on-prem part. On the cloud part, you bring your own AWS account. And so all data is under your control, and you have the ability to combine that data pool with other AWS projects and kind of realize those savings. So this is sort of truly bring your own infrastructure. We sell the Cloud DVX software as a capacity license, and we manage everything for you just like we saw. So you don't have to worry about that AWS infrastructure. So yes, software on-prem, the data node hardware, which is the white box that you see, that's where the drives go, that's the storage part, and the software that runs in the cloud. Long answer, but hopefully I was helpful.
Yeah, very helpful. So if someone has, say, some existing host, maybe an aging NAS or SAN that they run virtual machines on, and they need to replace that NAS or SAN, is Datrium, is that kind of an ideal entry point for Datrium?
100%. So it doesn't matter what host you use, as long as it has, I believe, 8 cores of CPU, and it can have 800 gigs of flash, you're golden, right? Our software will run on that, and you'll see performance that you have not seen. And then you just have to bring our data node so that you have this reliable, durable copy of the data, and all servers can go down, and your data is still safely kept on the data node.
Okay. And then what about the hypervisor support? Did you say VMware vSphere is the hypervisor? Are there other options?
That's such a great question. And I didn't spend a lot of time on the HCI part of our solution because we've done that previously, and you can find other information. So we support VMware vSphere. We support KVM. We support RHV, Red Hat Virtualization. We actually also support bare metal Linux hosts running RHEL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or CentOS. And on those hosts, you could run Docker containers, or you could run Postgres, database. And so it's really flexible, and all of this can be done on a single system. So you can consolidate dev, prod, DR, backup, all on the same system and realize tremendous efficiencies.
Very nice. So, and then what about like traditional, say, virtualization backup software? Would a company be able to eliminate that with Datrium in place?
So obviously, it depends on the customer use cases. If Datrium is hosting your most critical infrastructure, like we see with a lot of customers, yes. And you can take Datrium snapshots. They're really fast. They don't result in a VMware stun or a VMware snapshot. You can take 1 million of them. You can take it very granularly. You can keep them for as long as you want. You can replicate them. So if Datrium is the bulk of your infrastructure, that's definitely a possibility. If you have a heterogeneous environment where you have multi-vendor systems today, and there is a split of workload, then we definitely work with all of the backup partners as well. I mean, we are friends with backup vendors. There are use cases where they make more sense. But if your bulk of your infrastructure is running on Datrium, then there is lesser value in sort of having that add-on. I mean, you can still do it, but we kind of take care of the primary use case.
Okay, nice. And then how do companies typically get started with Datrium? Like, what's the first step? Do you recommend a demo, or how does that work?
Absolutely. So you can go to our website and reach out to us immediately in terms of saying, hey, I want to learn more. We have our sales teams, available all sort of, for your kind of information and education. So just reach out to us. We work with, a lot of channel partners out here. And so just give us a call, and we'll show you, the efficiency, the performance, and, the vision that you can truly enable for your data center.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, thanks for being on the event today, Tushar.
Thanks, David. Back to you. Thank you. Thank you all. Bye.
And if you have more questions about Datrium out there in the audience, please send them on in, and I will forward those to the folks from Datrium who are live on the event right now answering these questions as they come in. Also, check out the handout in the resources or the handouts tab there on your console that talks about the Datrium Cloud DVX solution. And with that, I'm going to pop up a poll question for you, our audience, while I announce our first Amazon $500 prize winner. The question on the screen there, if you don't mind answering it, is how many people work at your company? Should be a pretty easy question to answer. And so the first Amazon $500 gift card is going out to Jeff Lagana from Pennsylvania. Congratulations to Jeff. You won an Amazon $500 gift card. We have 2 more to give away on the event today, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. And if you haven't answered the poll, now's the time to do it, because I'm about to share the results, and you can see how you stack up with your peers on the event today. All right, looks like most of the audience has voted. Thank you for doing that. Let me share the results with you. And as you can see, 19% come from large enterprises on the event today, 10,000 plus employees at those companies. 18% come from, I would say, mid-sized companies, 100 to 500 employees, and a real good, breakdown of all different sorts of companies in between. Thank you for voting on that. We'll have a few other polls throughout the event. And now it's time for our next presentation on today's Cloud EcoCast. I'm excited to introduce Amanda Thompson, who is the Alliance Marketing Manager at Veeam Software, and Ron Martin, who is a Solutions Architect for Emerging Alliances at Veeam. Amanda and Ron, are you with us?
We're here. We're here.
Thanks for being on. Take it away.
You bet. Thank you. Hey, and thanks for everyone for joining today. My name is Ron Martin. Like David mentioned, I'm joined by Amanda. And what I'd like to take you through today is a quick view on the Veeam IBM Cloud solution. So we've been in process with IBM for a fair amount of time now. And what I want to take you through is kind of just do a one-slide quick view of the evolution of the Veeam offering in IBM Cloud, and then I'm going to jump right into, what does it look like in terms of server infrastructure, network infrastructure, storage infrastructure, and again, we'll do this fairly quickly. And then I also want to talk about a new addition to the IBM Cloud offering and additional capabilities that we've added just here in Q2. And then what we'll do is we'll transition into some use cases after that. What you'll find is, the Veeam licensing is very, very flexible, and we allow you, almost unlimited capabilities in terms of, intra-cloud, inter-cloud, or even cloud to on-prem. So with that, let's go ahead and hop into what is Veeam on IBM Cloud. So we've been working with IBM for a good long while now. Our initial conversations with the IBM Cloud team started really a little over 2 years ago with the VMware Cloud Foundation team. And what the Cloud Foundation team was looking for was, a slick way and a way that's a method that was automatable, that was resilient to back up the management VMs, both the formal vSphere VMs as well as the proprietary IBM VMs that comprise the IBM Cloud, the Cloud Foundation solution that IBM brought to market. Actually, I know AWS gets a lot of press these days in the Cloud Foundation space, but IBM's actually been there since the fall of 2016. But they were looking for a good way to back up those VMs and make sure that the core of Cloud Foundation was resilient, and they selected us. So we worked very diligently over the summer of 2016 to get Veeam fully automated, fully integrated into the Cloud Foundation solution, and we're available right at GA. We fairly quickly evolved to the VCS solution, or the VMware vCenter Server solution, which is kind of a little brother to Cloud Foundation, if you want to think about it that way. And then just a year ago, we were added into the IBM Cloud Catalog, so the Bluemix and SoftLayer catalogs that you may be familiar with from the IBM Cloud side, so that you didn't necessarily have to order, full VCF or full VCS, but you could order, a standalone ad hoc Veeam server and connect it into your virtualization environment however you like it. So the place where Veeam fits in the broad gamut of what's offered in the vSphere Solutions catalog for IBM Cloud is in backup, obviously, and that's what we're best known for, as well as DR. So we also play very nicely into the DR space in IBM Cloud and have a number of customers that are using us effectively there. So, we're really happy to say that, we not only, have an offering on IBM Cloud, but it's actually growing very, very rapidly. So we're very pleased. We couldn't be more pleased about that. And I'm going to talk about some things in a couple of slides that we think will even grease the skids to keep us growing even more rapidly on IBM Cloud. So let's talk about what the solution looks like up there. So from a provisioning side, what we've done is for the Cloud Foundation solution, we fully automated the Veeam deployment, so that literally it was a push button. Actually, it was an Ansible workflow, if you're interested, that automated the whole Veeam provisioning in the cloud for Cloud Foundation. And we took that body of knowledge that we built around the automation, and we applied it to really all offerings within IBM Cloud. So that if you today go into the software IBM Cloud Bluemix portal and select a server and select the Veeam option on top of that, what comes out the other end is your Windows server, fully provisioned from the operating system level, as well as a fully licensed, fully ready to use Veeam backup and replication server instance. So you have a number of different options for deploying it. Again, all we require is a Windows server of some kind. Doesn't matter if that Windows server is virtual. So you can run it on what's called a VSI, which is the multi-tenant, Zen server-based virtualization offering within IBM Cloud. Perfectly fine to run it on VSI. In fact, if you have a smaller environment, say, higher RTOs, higher RPO kind of environment, or maybe you just have a few VMs. VSI is not a bad way to deploy Veeam. Ultimately the ceiling that you will hit is the 1 gig uplink limit. So I will say that from the testing I've done in IBM Cloud, they are a little more generous than the advertised 1 gig. You can definitely get a little more bandwidth out of it, but eventually you will tap out. Adding more cores, adding more memory or more servers, you're eventually going to tap out that 1 gig link and need to go to something else. That something else, generally speaking, is bare metal. So you could do bare metal, of course, in IBM Cloud. You can scale up your Veeam server, or if you're familiar with Veeam, you can also scale it out. And of course, there's nothing preventing you to virtualize Veeam, to virtualize your full Veeam infrastructure. We just don't have that fully automated. So again, if you want to bring your own license, deploy Veeam virtual, again, that's an option too. It's the beauty of IBM Cloud, right? They give you the total flexibility in how you deploy, because you have full bare metal up access. So once you have a Veeam server deployed in IBM Cloud, it's really simple to get it productive. Really, the only thing that you need to do is, one, connect it to your virtual infrastructure. So if you have, vSphere Hyper-V in IBM Cloud, we'll soon be supporting Nutanix AHV. Simply point Veeam to your virtual infrastructure, point it to some backup storage, and you're ready to start creating backup jobs and going on your merry way. So what about from a storage perspective? So you have multiple options within IBM Cloud. Generally speaking, Veeam will work with really any file or block-based storage. So we do both in IBM Cloud. So from endurance and performance perspective, we support both. Generally, we lead with endurance storage. The 0.25, so if you're familiar with IBM Cloud, you know that the endurance storage can come in multiple performance tiers. We recommend the 0.25 IOP per gig storage tier for your backups. Now, we have actually tested Veeam advanced features on this. If you're familiar with Veeam, instant VM recovery, Sure Backup or Data Labs, we've tested all of these advanced features on the 0.25 IOP per gig storage, and it works great. So you don't have to worry about performance, even doing advanced Veeam features. But we also know that endurance can become a little expensive at scale. So there are other options within IBM Cloud. For instance, since they offer bare metal servers, some of the bare metal servers, support up to, I believe, 36 drives, running 8 to 10 terabyte drives on those servers. You can scale up a Veeam repository just as taking a JBOD approach with great ease within IBM Cloud. Turns out to be very economical, and it's actually fairly performant. So just FYI. The other new offering within IBM Cloud that we wanted to highlight is ONTAP Select, NetApp ONTAP Select. So if you know that a lot of the storage in IBM Cloud is already NetApp today, and you probably know that we have integration with NetApp, so that we can do some interesting things with storage snapshots and the like. ONTAP Select gives you that capability. So if you want more of a single tenant approach to storage, if you want to take full advantage of all of the Veeam and NetApp integration capabilities that are on the market today, then we definitely encourage you to take a look at ONTAP Select for your Veeam storage in IBM Cloud. One of the other exciting things that we have going on IBM Cloud is Cloud Object Storage support, so S3 support. So today, if you want to get your Veeam backups off onto some kind of S3 tier, you really need to look at doing some kind of AltaVault or Panzura or Nasuni or some other kind of gateway. However, in the very, very near future, we will be able to do this natively with Veeam. So we'll be able to maintain your current 1 week, 2 week, 30-day backup chain nicely, and then rather than pruning that backup chain as you hit day 31 or you hit day 15 or you hit day 8, what we'll be able to do is actually take that backup increment and move it up onto an S3 archive tier. So the good news with IBM Cloud is one of the platforms that we're testing against doing our own internal QA is Cloud Object Storage. So we can say with pretty much complete certainty that we will support the IBM Cloud Object Storage when we ship this new feature. Generally speaking, late summer, early fall there. The other thing that we support that's particularly apropos for IBM Cloud is something we call scale-out backup repository. And what scale-out backup repository is a very, you can think of it as a really lightweight software-defined storage for Veeam. So that in essence, say I have, smaller, maybe I have a smaller environment, I have, 5 terabytes of backup data that I need to leverage today. So maybe I order, a 5 terabyte Endurance LUN to get that backup, to get those backups on. But, as I'm either migrating to IBM Cloud or I'm otherwise growing my presence in IBM Cloud, I need more storage. So rather than, scrapping the old 5 terabyte LUN, adding a new one, adding a new larger one, then trying to migrate backups there, what we can do with scale-out backup repository is simply add additional storage, whether it's JBOD storage, whether it's Endurance storage, whether it's ONTAP Select storage, whatever it is, we can add it to a scale-out backup repository in Veeam and not have to worry about, changing my job settings. Don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Or, if your environment somehow shrinks, while you're on IBM Cloud, you can similarly scale down and give you that elasticity to your backup repository that of course is the promise of cloud, right? So from an overall benefits perspective, deploying Veeam on IBM Cloud, the major benefit is full hypervisor access. So if we talk about, really the bulk of the other public clouds on the market, it is the key differentiator on IBM Cloud for us because we have full hypervisor access. It means you can take advantage of the full Veeam advanced feature set, instant VM recovery, the new data labs capabilities. All of those features are available in their native form on IBM Cloud, which is huge for us. The other nice thing, the other actually great thing about IBM Cloud is ingress-egress charges. So obviously, yes, it costs to move into IBM Cloud. It costs things to move out of IBM Cloud. However, what you can do within IBM Cloud is pretty massive. I mean, I think they're up to north of 50, maybe north of 60 IBM Cloud data centers worldwide. So think about a case where I'm running workloads in the cloud, in Dallas, but maybe I want to keep a DR location in Washington, or maybe I want to keep backup copies in maybe a tertiary site. I can do that all within IBM Cloud and only pay for the storage and compute I use. All of the data transfer, all of them, moving those backups, moving those replicas, it's all free within IBM Cloud. Obviously, you can take advantage of the deployment benefits of the automation that we've developed over time, and it's all a per VM license basis. So we don't care, how many servers you throw out, how many cores or virtual CPUs. From a backup and replication perspective, it's just purely per VM. And I apologize, I have a dated price on here, but we'll talk a little bit more about pricing. It's always dangerous to let technically I talk about pricing, I know. We'll talk more about pricing in just a moment. And then from an IBM Cloud perspective, it's a very cost-effective solution. From a VM backup perspective, we're completely agentless. And we do have some significant advantages over the the existing offerings within IBM Cloud. So I want to switch gears. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of our virtual backup capabilities within IBM Cloud. But I want to switch gears just a little bit and talk about Veeam agents, because as you may not be aware, Veeam has been shipping operating system level agents for some time now. We of course realize we grew up as a virtual backup solution, but we of course realize that not every customer in every environment is 100% virtualized. So to be to address the enterprise needs, we obviously need to be able to address things that aren't virtualized with Hyper-V or vSphere. So for that, we have the Veeam agents. So if you're familiar with our architecture now, it looks kind of like this. We have hypervisor infrastructure, backup and replication, and storage. Very simple, very straightforward. It just works is really true. So from an agent perspective, specific to IBM Cloud, what we do is we're able to support, of course, Windows or Linux running on IBM Cloud bare metal. So if you've ordered, a CentOS bare metal server, or a Windows 2012 bare metal server, we can load a Veeam agent on that server and then integrate that into the same backup and replication infrastructure that you've already created for your virtual machines. In the same way, we're able to do VSI as well. So if you're running some multi-tenant VMs, some VSI VMs within IBM Cloud, same story applies there. for Windows or Linux, we can simply load our Veeam agent onto those Zen server effectively hosted VMs, and again, make sure that those machines are effectively backed up within the Veeam backup infrastructure as well. So from a OS support perspective, 32-bit or 64-bit. Windows side, Windows 7, really up. From a Linux support perspective, we support all the popular distributions of Linux, and are continuing to advance those. We actually are just up on a point release of our Linux client to address, I think, one minor issue with RHEL, but these things have been out for since the late fall of 20. I believe 16, and are working well in the environments that they're deployed in. So there were a couple changes we had to make to our core offering on IBM Cloud. One was the addition of Backup and Replication Update 3. So this is an update that we shipped late last year, and the major thing that it added was the ability to actually push and manage the agents more efficiently. So of course, we had agents before, but it was really up to you, the end user, to to figure out how you were going to push and deploy and configure the agents to the actual endpoint Windows and Linux server OSs. With Update 3, that all changed. So with Update 3, what we can do is either for Linux or Windows, we can go and create what we call protection groups, protection domains. And for the Windows side of the house, we can attach that to just an Active Directory OU, or we can do just an ad hoc collection of Windows servers. Same for Linux. We can define a set of IP range or a set of IPs, and we can automate the push of the Veeam agent to those endpoints. And then the other thing we had to change, and this is more of an internal Veeam IBM thing, but we needed to make sure the licensing was accommodating that as well. But those changes have been made. You can currently, and next slide, you can currently, when you go into order a server and specify Veeam, you can say, I need to back up 10 VMs and 5 VSIs, and I can make the appropriate selections from the Veeam add-on directly from that screen. And you'll notice also the pricing has shifted a little bit. It's actually moved down. So we've also given you the ability to do either standard enterprise version of Veeam or Enterprise Plus. Again, the enterprise version moves the lever down to $11 list per VM for virtual backups and $18 for agents. And I believe the Enterprise Plus, and Amanda can correct me later, is 15 and 18 respectively there as well. So again, we're trying to make it completely simple. If you want to back up physical and virtual in the same infrastructure, just making it easy. So there are a couple. there is currently, if you're interested in using the agents, there is a V1 guide out there. You can see the link here. I'm in process with the version 2. Hopefully to have that out before the end of the month, which outlines the agent push capabilities that are in the new Update 3 that we've just rolled out within IBM Cloud. So with that, let's jump into a couple of use cases here. So with Veeam, like I mentioned at the outset, our licensing model is really flexible in terms of what you can touch and where within the cloud. So obviously, within the cloud, if I'm backing up VMs that are completely located within the infrastructure as a service component of IBM Cloud, obviously I can back those up there. But if I want to actually do to the cloud, if I want to back up data that I have on-prem, I want to keep my backup copy in IBM Cloud, or if I want to do DR to IBM Cloud, even out to being able to do SaaS backup. So one of the current initiatives we have with IBM Cloud is using it. We're running some testing right now, using it as a target to back up my Office 365 data. If you weren't aware, Veeam also has solutions for SaaS offerings. So we're running some pilots with that right now, and are pretty happy about the results to this point. So let's talk about a couple of these specific use cases. And I just want to talk about the architecture and what's required. And I will preface it by saying, we've deployed some of these use cases, well, maybe all of these use cases, I believe, but at this point. And the net of it is, the net feedback I get is, well, I can't believe it's that simple. And it is as simple as it seems here. So let's talk about the first and probably lowest hanging fruit, the simplest solution, the secondary backup to IBM Cloud. Say maybe I'm using tape today, maybe I want to move to cloud, or maybe there's some other reason I'm losing my secondary offsite location, so I need to move backup copies into some cloud location. With IBM Cloud, it's super simple. So all I need to deploy, if I have an existing on-prem Veeam environment, is I need to deploy a Windows VM within IBM Cloud. I need to add that VM to my on-prem managed servers infrastructure within Veeam. So we need to have visibility to that Windows VM or bare metal, really either way, in IBM Cloud. And then at that point, I can set up a cloud repository from that Windows VM or physical server in IBM Cloud, if it's assuming it has some kind of storage attached to it. At that point, I can effectively, it becomes completely seamless to my Veeam environment because it's just another backup repository location. So I can target it for backup copy jobs. I could even do primary backups to it if I want. And literally the only extra cost is one, the Windows server that's running within IBM Cloud, and the storage. So there's no Veeam license. You don't have to buy Veeam in IBM Cloud. You don't have to do any of that. I'm just leveraging it for a storage repository. But it literally, it is that simple. So in the same way, maybe you want to say, well, I don't really have a good solution on-prem today, or I'm transitioning to another solution, or maybe I'm going to eventually do Veeam, or I don't know. You can actually drive it from the other end. So again, the licensing is that flexible. So I could, say I wanted to get my backups up into IBM Cloud, or maybe I wanted to stage my backups up there in anticipation of a future migration. What I could do is, in this case, you would buy, the IBM Cloud per VM license version of Veeam. In this case, you would deploy the Veeam proxy on-prem, and then in that way be able to pull those VM backups up into IBM Cloud, actually driving it from IBM Cloud. So again, very simple. Or say you've completely migrated to the cloud over time, but I still have this on-prem infrastructure that's not doing much. Well, again, we can reverse the scenario. We can use your on-prem location for maybe a secondary backup from IBM Cloud. Again, the permutations and combinations are almost infinite, almost. So the other thing that I wanted to mention was DR. So at Veeam we talk a lot about backup, and that's obviously a core competency, but DR is also too. So in the case of being able to do backup, the IBM Cloud, very simple. The same proposition for DR. Again, I would still deploy a Veeam proxy on a Veeam Windows proxy on a Windows or Linux, a Windows or a VSI or bare metal server, and the only difference being, instead of my target being some storage where I'm copying the backups, my on-prem Veeam backup and replication server just simply points to both vCenters, or points to both ESXi hosts, as the case may be. And then what I'm able to do is I'm actually able to stage the VMs that I'm running on-prem up into IBM Cloud, and then of course take advantage of the failover and failback capabilities that are already built into Veeam, as well as the new Veeam availability orchestrator capabilities that are there as well. And again, this could be driven from either end, just like the backups kit. So let me give you just a quick example, and then I'm going to pass the ball over to Amanda. But we do have a customer that we've been keeping track of. They're actually using another cloud provider for their DR service today, but what they're doing is they're using Veeam. They have Veeam in the current DR recovery provider site. They're using Veeam and our VM replication technology to replicate the VMs from that site into IBM Cloud. At the point that they cut over, they actually do their final failovers into IBM Cloud. They will then actually create some storage resources in a secondary site where they will, from their new Veeam instance in IBM Cloud, they will create their backup copies there. And in their case, they're actually creating a tertiary site with compute so that they have DR within IBM Cloud. So again, all driven with Veeam, all driven with a single instance of Veeam in IBM Cloud, and very resilient. So with that, let me pass it over to Amanda, and she's going to talk to you about some marketing and resources.
Great. Thanks so much, Ron. And as always, I learn something every time I hear you present. So thanks so much for all that great information and a lot of new updates, really exciting stuff going on with Veeam and IBM Cloud. So I'm not going to talk for very long at all here. I just want to take everybody through a couple of slides about marketing and some places where you can find more information. So we do have a mixed audience today. Looks like there's quite a few partners as well as end users. So I just wanted to first call out to partners, whether you are a Veeam partner. If so, thank you very much. If you're not yet a Veeam partner and you want to be able to sell Veeam, we encourage you to go to our Pro Partner portal. It's just veeam.com/Pro Partner. You log in. It really only takes a handful of minutes to become a partner. You come in at registered, and then based on other requirements, you are able to move up the food chain. But this site has just a wealth of information. It has Veeam University where you can learn a lot more, plus get certifications. And it does have several pages dedicated specifically to the IBM Cloud as well as IBM storage relationship. So encourage you to become a partner. It's really easy to do. Next up, for the end users on the phone, we definitely encourage you to learn more about Veeam. You can do that either on IBM's website, which I've shown a picture here, and you can easily jot down that link. I'll leave this up for just a second. We also have a dedicated page on veeam.com for Veeam and IBM Cloud information. This is where you can find webinars that we've done on the subject. You can find white papers, solution briefs, all kinds of information. So encourage you end users to visit either of those sites. So moving on, just want to call out a couple of the most popular documents that we find customers are downloading today from either Veeam or the IBM site. The first is a simple solution brief. It's just a one-page overview of our relationship with IBM Cloud. We also have another document that Ron spoke to, which is a configuration guide. If you prefer, we also have that in video format if you'd like to watch it versus read through it. It's an excellent guide that Ron put a lot into, and it's definitely one of the most popular downloaded items, as well as a white paper that we are providing to you during this webinar as well. You can go into the tool and grab this white paper right now if you'd like. It is all about Veeam and IBM Cloud. It's done by IDG, which, as you know, is an excellent third party out there that does industry analysis over these two companies and our solutions together. You may have seen us. I just wanted to call your attention. IBM had their huge event, over 40,000 people in Las Vegas this year. Veeam was an excellent sponsor there. We had prime location. It was a wonderful event for us. Hopefully we met some of you there. And then just recently in Chicago, we had Veeam On. If you haven't been to one of those before, strongly encourage you to look out for Veeam On 2018. That's our flagship event. And we were so proud to have IBM Cloud there as a premier sponsor. So the reason I'm throwing that in there for you is we may have met you there, but also to know about next year, as well as just to see the commitment that we've made to each other in this alliance partnership. Also something to note, there's many road shows that we're doing with IBM. So that's something to look out for. The best way to find out what events we're doing upcoming with IBM Cloud, whether it's partner incubator road shops or we do trainings through Tech Data as a distributor for SEs. And again, they've taken that Think trade show on the road. The best way to find out where we're going to be is email ibm@veeam.com. In fact, if you have any questions, you can use the chat today because we'll be live for a little bit to answer your questions. but also never hesitate, whether you're a partner or an end user, reach out to the team, ibm@veeam.com. It goes to about 7 of us. If it's technical, we'll get it over to Ron. If it's a marketing question, it comes to myself, and we do monitor that and typically answer you, within an hour or two. So never hesitate to find us there. So with that, I guess we will turn it over for any questions that might be in the Q&A. And if there aren't any, we'll look forward to them. So go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I do see a couple of questions here. One from John asking about Windows Server 2003. So, of course, from a VM perspective, yeah, it doesn't matter as long as we take a snapshot of it, of course. But I suspect you're more asking about the agents. So from an agent perspective, there's, of course, what's supported and then what works. So you can definitely try to use the agent. I suspect it probably would work properly, but again, we have to adhere to what Microsoft's support stance is on 2003. So again, it's not going to be technically supported, but yeah, you can definitely give it a try. I think you would probably have some success there. And then also from John asking about can Veeam backup, do NAS backup, so SMBs, NFS, that sort of thing. And that is a capability that we've announced. But probably is a little further out, probably a little further out on the roadmap yet. But keep looking, keep tuned to this space, as they say, and I think you'll be getting some good news in the relatively near term on that relative to NAS backup. So, yep, good questions. I think those are the only two that I see.
I see a great comment out there from Garrett who says this EcoCast has been awesome already. It is Veeam on all over again. Awesome lineup. So, hey, thanks for the shout out for Veeam on. And, I see up next is another alliance partner of ours, Nutanix. So if that's the last question, then I think we'll turn it back over to our hosts.
Yeah. Excellent presentation. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Amanda. Thanks for being on the event today.
You bet.
We appreciate you having us. Thanks.
All right. For more information, of course, you can reach out to ibm@veeam.com. You see on the screen there. Also, check out the handout that's there on your console. And with that, it is time for a poll question that I'm going to pop up on the screen. The question is, how many people work in your IT department? This should be a pretty easy question to answer. If you want to just select the number that corresponds to your IT organization. I'm going to share the results in just a moment while we queue up our next presenter. Looks like some votes are coming in already. Thank you for doing that. I'll give you another few seconds here to answer the question. All right, looks like most everyone has voted. Let's get a few more votes. Make your selection now, as they say. All right, let me share the results with you. And as you can see, 2 to 5 people was the largest group. 15% have more than 100 people. 10% have one-person shops. So thank you, everyone who voted in that poll. We've got some more polls to come. And with that, it's time for the next presenter on today's event, and that is Rohit Goyal, who is a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Nutanix. Rohit, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Thanks for being on the event today. Take it away.
Appreciate it. Great, thank you. So I'm going to get started here. My name is Rohit Goyal, Senior Product Marketing Manager here, and I'm responsible for object storage and general go-to-market strategies for Nutanix. In this session, I'm excited to give you an overview of our enterprise cloud story, a bit of background on Nutanix and their stack, and what we've been up to as a company. But first of all, let me tell you about the agenda here. So I'll give you that company overview, talk to you a little bit about the world of multi-cloud, foundations for the enterprise cloud, and then we'll talk about powering all workloads and use cases. So Nutanix was founded in 2009 in San Jose, California, which is the company's headquarters. Since then, we started selling software in 2011, and we've gained over 9,000 customers across different verticals and use cases all over the globe. We now have over 670 G2K customers starting to standardize on Nutanix. Support is an important part of this as well. It's a product that we sell at Nutanix, and it's something that we're really proud of. A lot of time and effort goes into building a world-class support organization. Two of the stats that matter the most are the NPS score, which is plus 90, and we've consistently managed that for over 4 years. This is a score that our customers give Nutanix, indicating on the likelihood of them recommending Nutanix to their peers. So a score of plus 90 is truly unheard of in the industry. A couple other salient points that you should be aware of. When you call into support, you don't typically get, a tier 1 support person. You get level 3, and we have folks who are VCDXs on staff. So if your issue goes beyond the Nutanix stack into, say, a different hypervisor or such, we'll help you solve it. So a little bit about the multi-cloud world that I mentioned. Public cloud has reset expectations for what enterprise IT must deliver. Internal IT consumers need infrastructure provisioned in minutes and not weeks or months. And if not, what happens is the line of business will circumvent and go around to public cloud resources, and then IT teams will have to contend with that, especially with those shadow IT issues. They want solutions that are simple to deploy, manage, and scale. One-click operations for all common workloads. This is the experience of the consumer IT. Most operations on our phones are single-click today and usually intuitive. And they want infrastructure that can be operated by these IT generalists, not multiple teams of specialists. Cloud has also set new business expectations. Organizations will no longer tolerate the expensive cost of over-provisioned data centers. They want IT services only when they need them, and they want to pay for them when they use them. So that's what we call fractional consumption. They expect continuous innovation, new features and capabilities rolled in frequently, and they want them done all non-disruptively with no maintenance windows. These customers' requirements have set the bar for what the data center and cloud architectures must deliver. Most customers' first experience with cloud infrastructure is via public cloud services. We know majority of our customers are using public cloud today or have plans to do so. The benefits are obvious: elasticity, flexible consumption, pay-as-you-use, OpEx, and simple, right? You don't need teams of IT specialists. It's an attractive infrastructure choice for applications with unpredictable demand characteristics that make capacity planning very difficult. For these services, it makes sense to stand them up in the public cloud. Now, in the private cloud, I want the same cloud experience in my own data center, in my own private cloud. The majority of applications in a typical enterprise, however, are more predictable. I know my resources and requirements over time, and I can forecast that growth with some confidence. I want to deliver my mission-critical applications with high performance, with a lower TCO than what the public cloud offers. IDC published an exhaustive research report that details the costs of running different types of workloads in different cloud environments, and proves that for the majority of enterprise applications, the economics favors HCI-based private clouds. And then you have these distributed clouds. This need to unify management of my IT environments and enable migrations of applications across environments is now extending into these distributed clouds. Should your cloud stop with just the core data center? You still have apps running in your remote offices, isolated and disconnected environments such as oil rigs, cruises, airplanes, and more. With a growing number of intelligent devices, there's an increasing need for intelligent edge servers and edge clouds as well. Reversal used to be a centralization of apps and data. Now there's a need to push process to the edge, closer to that point of sale or point of business. Customers want that same cloud benefit across their end-to-end IT fabric, including remote and branch offices, DR sites, and the edge use cases like field deployments as their private and public cloud deployments. Customers are evolving to a multi-cloud environment. Often companies look to public or hybrid clouds to solve their agility problems on-prem, but this just adds to the additional expertise to properly manage it. How many people understand end-to-end how an application works and what depends on what? The ultimate goal in a multi-cloud environment is providing a consistent experience for the cloud operator, as well as the consumers of IT services. There are a lot of challenges, though. With each environment built with different technology stacks, it's difficult to migrate workloads between clouds. Lift and shift operations are time-consuming, expensive, and overall cumbersome. Management becomes fragmented. You need teams trained to use AWS, Azure, gateways, and vCenter, UCS Director, and more. Multiple clouds increase management complexity. It's also hard to reconcile very different consumption models. Pay-as-you-use for public cloud, 3 to 5 year refresh cycles for private cloud, ad hoc consumption models for installation outside the primary data center in a distributed cloud. The real crux of the problem is achieving that consistent experience. While attempts have been made to bridge clouds together, it's hard to solve this because the underlying infrastructure across these clouds is vastly different. Public cloud solutions such as AWS and Azure use their own proprietary technologies that are not available on enterprise data centers. When apps are built on the public cloud, they are often locked into the public cloud because of the dependency on the underlying technologies. There's very little visibility around the kind of storage, virtualization, and networking technologies, which is good and bad. Good because app owners should not care about the underlying infrastructure. Bad because it's very hard to know what should be done to successfully migrate applications. Private cloud stacks are extremely complex to build and manage. OpenStack, Microsoft, and VMware-based private clouds are extremely complicated to build and operate. The underlying storage, though, storage, server, and networking technologies typically come from a bunch of vendors like HP, Dell, EMC, NetApp, Cisco, and more, making it hard to connect all these pieces together. Distributed clouds use technologies that are less expensive and are freely available. And any of the higher performance or availability requirements that the core data center apps haven't already been made available here. Given all this, a true multi-cloud or hybrid cloud solution is extremely hard to build and operate. If we focus on the private and distributed clouds, like we mentioned earlier, the requirements of infrastructure are really different. As an example, core banking applications require very high performance and 5 to 6 nines of availability. An edge server application may not be as performance sensitive, but may be connected to hundreds of intelligent devices and may be data heavy. On the same side, a typical robo application might require minimal resources. Because of the cost and space restrictions, infrastructure in certain cases may be as small as a single node or even an Intel NUC. And in certain cases, it may have to scale to thousands of nodes or servers. The underlying operating system should be the same irrespective of what the use case is. Within the Enterprise Cloud OS from Nutanix, the underlying software can support mission-critical applications such as Oracle, SAP, SQL workloads, and at the same time run on a single server to support a robo application or a Docker application. Irrespective of the hardware, the software adapts based on the use cases. Since all the intelligence is built into the software learns and adapts and becomes more intelligent over time. The same software can run on a wide variety of hardware from vendors such as Dell, EMC, IBM, Lenovo, Cisco, HP, and more. Irrespective of how many servers coexist across the globe, management is centralized. Everything from deploying infrastructure to managing application is all centralized, simplifying everyday management. IT administrators will now spend time on managing applications and supporting business needs as opposed to worrying about the underlying operating system. But what about the public cloud use? How do I extend my architecture to multiple clouds, particularly the control plane? Customers evaluating multiple clouds, security, sovereignty, cost. Two challenges really come up here. How do I prevent my public cloud from being a new silo, detached from the rest of my IT infrastructure? How do I get the flexibility to abstract the cloud infrastructure from my application so I can select the best cloud for each app? Nutanix COM, which is built into the Prism framework, provides a single control plane to manage applications and services across the cloud environments. It provides common management constructs and policy engine to orchestrate all types of applications independent of the environment. Applications are managed via easy-to-use blueprints and can be deployed in a single click. Application blueprints are published in the COM marketplace, enabling self-service across the org. COM includes detailed reporting to show the overutilization and true cost of cloud consumption, allowing app provisioning decisions to be made on business need and budget requirements. Even if you're running just a single cloud, COM provides full application management and orchestration to automate frequent and common tasks, giving the infrastructure management more control of the applications and services running in the infrastructure. Irrespective of whether the teams are DevOps focused or IT ops driven, COM will help significantly with everyday tasks. XiDR is the first Xi cloud service, but we obviously will not stop there. One-click DR services for any applications running on a Nutanix-powered private cloud, enabled via Prism and managed via Prism or the Xi Cloud portal. It allows DR strategies to be implemented in minutes and not hours, not the weeks or months required for traditional disaster recovery implementations. Automatically replicates the full environment, applications, data, and configurations. In the event that the primary data center fails, services are delivered via Xi Cloud for complete business continuity. This is an example of how modern hybrid clouds will look and operate. No gateways, no add-ons, everything works seamlessly. So the Nutanix solution is composed of an infrastructure stack, which is the Nutanix HCI, and that's built with a virtualization built into the product. With natively, it has KVM-based AHV running in there, and networking is done by the Flow feature. On top of that, you have services where you can enable them as you need. So very much like the cloud-like environment, so you can enable Air for database services, AFS for file services, Object for object, Block, and then Xi for your disaster recovery as a service. And this is all managed via Prism, which does your infrastructure operations, and COM, which is built into Prism, and that does your application automation. And then Veeam is a SaaS offering, which handles multi-cloud governance and costs. So you can actually analyze your costs of your public cloud environments. And then we have tools like X-Ray, which allows for cloud testing, Extract for migration. So if you're running a VM on an existing infrastructure and you want to migrate that VM over to Nutanix, we've got a tool for that. Sizer, which helps you figure out what types of workloads will translate over to the Nutanix environment and how to size it properly. And then you have Community Edition, which is our free enterprise cloud software, which gives you the full capabilities of our software that's available from our community site. So we've built our Nutanix Enterprise Cloud with a single cohesive stack that integrates all infrastructure resources with a scalable management plane for managing both infrastructure and applications. It's built on the most advanced and popular hyperconverged foundation, combining scale-out storage services, server, compute, and enterprise data protection. Unique to Nutanix is the power to use any common hypervisor, including ESXi, as well as building in a native virtualization layer, Nutanix AHV, which I covered on the previous slide. To dive deeper, the problem is that traditional infrastructure wasn't designed for cloud environments. The enterprise data center needs to be replatformed to meet the needs of the enterprise cloud. Let's now look at how Nutanix solved this infrastructure challenge. Nutanix really pioneered the concept of hyperconverged infrastructure. Hyperconvergence natively converges compute, storage, virtualization, networking, DR, and other capabilities into an x86 servers with attached flash and hard disk drives that are deployed as clusters. Customers can start with a small footprint, as little as 1 node and as little as 2 U of rack space, and can add compute and storage capacity when needed. Hyperconvergence radically simplifies how infrastructure is deployed and managed, and it reduces the footprint of IT infrastructure by up to 90%. Nutanix hasn't stopped there. The Nutanix solution natively integrates enterprise-class virtualization right into the product. The hypervisor comes pre-installed on all Nutanix appliances. Additionally, the solution also offers a slew of networking capabilities. From a management perspective, the entire spectrum of applications to infrastructure management can be performed and automated with Nutanix. No additional components to install or manage. With this, all the focus is on the application and the underlying infrastructure just works. So the Nutanix software runs in a user mode VM called the controller VM on each node in the cluster. The controller VMs, or CVMs, talk to each other and create a single storage pool using storage drives on all the nodes in the cluster. This is called the Distributed Storage Fabric, or DSF. DSF distributes data and metadata across all the nodes in the cluster and provides enterprise storage features such as deduplication, compression, cloning, tiering, and resiliency in a truly distributed way with no single points of failure or hotspots in the cluster. This scale-out architecture allows you to grow the cluster by adding nodes when needed without limits. You get linear predictability, predictable performance, and capacity increases as the cluster grows. The Nutanix solution delivers data locality to provide the best VM and cluster performance. All I/O requests from a VM are handled by the local controller VM on that node. When a VM writes data, one copy of that data is written to the local node. That way, read requests can be handled immediately using data on the same node without having to go over the network. If the VM moves to a different node, then over time, the data also migrates to the remote node to restore locality. The Nutanix solution is 100% software defined and doesn't rely on custom hardware for any capabilities. Current Nutanix customers can get the benefits of software innovation by installing the latest software release with a single click. Any app at any scale. There's a lot of traditional information out here where business critical applications, all the way through to VDI, remote office, branch office, messaging and collaboration. But businesses the world over run their mission critical applications and production workloads on Nutanix. They use the Nutanix solution for running enterprise applications such as SQL Server and Oracle and SAP, as well as those remote office and branch office deployments for collaboration or unified communications. Many of our customers start with 1 or 2 use cases, and they expand into other applications as they get comfortable with the solution. Nutanix consolidates VM, file, block, and container storage all on the same platform. Network-attached storage appliances have been the solution of choice for file server deployments. These deployments can be complex to set up and operate, require specialized skills, and create those additional infrastructure silos. With AFS, the customer can eliminate another infrastructure silo, which is what the NAS creates, and get that simpler infrastructure stack as a result. AFS uses the same scale-out underlying platform and can be scaled out or scaled up very easily. When you look at that traditional SAN storage arrays and the way that they've been designed, they struggle to meet the needs of today's cloud era. Their monolithic architectures quickly fall apart with the elasticity and on-demand nature you would expect from storage solutions. They lack innovation as there's no holistic data center view, and analytics are limited, if they even exist. Least of all, they don't have the built-in automation to help with those day-to-day tasks. And to top it off, simple topology changes require reconfiguring the client. And in order to address these challenges with existing legacy solutions, a new approach has to be taken. That cloud simplicity, scalability, and performance must be built into the service that enables existing bare metal and externally connected VM workloads to gain the benefits of what the cloud offers. This is where cloud infrastructure meets external workloads with Acropolis block services. At this point, I'd like to thank the audience for taking the time to listen about the approach that Nutanix is taking, especially around the multi-cloud world, what a typical scenario looks like in terms of the foundation of the full stack, and what hyperconvergence is and how it works, and telling you a little bit about the workloads and some of the services that we have available.
Great presentation, Rohit. Thank you very much. We do have a few questions here for you from the audience if you're ready.
Sure, that's great.
All right. So when it comes to migrating, say from maybe an aging like vSphere infrastructure with an attached SAN or NAS, how can Nutanix help? Are there some tools available?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a couple options. There's the tool that I showed on the solutions slide. It's called Extract, and what that does is allows you to basically go from your existing, say you're running ESXi on, with some VMs on it, and you want to migrate that over to Nutanix. You have the capability of doing that. The other option we have is a cross-hypervisor DR scenario, meaning you could be running in your primary location an ESXi cluster, but typically in your remote location, you don't want to pay for additional licenses, and you want to reduce the costs, so you can run Nutanix AHV as their hypervisor of choice at the remote location, and there's no additional cost to that, so it's license-free. And what we can do is we have a one-click operation to allow you to convert that VM over to AHV, which is KVM-based, without you having to do any of the heavy lifting.
Nice, nice. And I know you mentioned Nutanix offers a hardened platform. Can you kind of elaborate on what exactly does that mean?
Sure. So Nutanix takes security really seriously. We actually win a lot of federal deals because of this. And the reason being is that we hired a couple of folks who solely sit with our engineering team, and they're security experts who look at the code and continually monitor it for any vulnerabilities. So what they've done is they've actually taught, for example, our QA team to use external tools like Retina and Nessus to verify against the code to make sure there's no vulnerabilities out there. And whenever we ship software out to our customer, ever since we've been doing it, we've always made sure that we've checked the code before we ever ship it. And it just makes it that much more secure, knowing that when the customer gets it, that we've run through these pen test tools against it.
Okay, nice. And then what about, cost? When it comes to, cloud, one of the big benefits is potential cost savings, but of course you have to, analyze that and manage it over time. Does Nutanix offer any solution to help companies manage and analyze costs around cloud?
We do. We've got a great team internally where we leverage them whenever we're talking to customers. They go above and beyond and actually work with the finance teams to understand what you have today existing, and if you were to move that to Nutanix, what does it look like? And then we have a tool called Sizer, where you could potentially do it yourself and work, or you could work with our SE team. And the idea with Sizer is that you punch in all your workload information. So, for example, if you're doing VDI and you have information about like how many number of seats and what type of users, you punch it all in, it'll give you a configuration. And then at the bottom of that, it'll actually tell you your total cost of ownership and break that down for you. So you can actually start to tweak, your configuration, and you can see how the cost savings will increase over time.
Nice. And then, I've heard of like the Nutanix Community Edition. I'm wondering, how do people typically get started with Nutanix? Do they use the Community Edition, or are there other options for them?
Yeah, so there are a couple options. You can go to nutanix.com/testdrive. Test drive is basically our Community Edition software running in the cloud. And what it does is it launches an instance for you when you just sign up. It's a quick, about 10 or 15 second reg page, and you're off and running. It'll give you the idea, look and feel of what the Nutanix platform through Prism looks like, and you can start to play around with VMs that are there. There's some instances of Linux that are preloaded, so you can take a look at that. And then you also have a Community Edition, which you mentioned, which is great. Another way to do it. If you want to play for longer, you can download that from our community site and run it on your own hardware. We've got thousands of people already doing that today. They love it, and they give us great feedback that we make the software available to them without any cost.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I think that's all the questions we have for now, but thank you so much for being on the event today, Rohit.
Great, thank you for having me.
For more information on Nutanix, visit their website, of course, Nutanix.com. Also check out the resource that's available to you there in the console about the Nutanix Cloud Disaster Recovery Solution. And with that, it's time for another Amazon $500 gift card. While I announce that prize winner, I'm going to pop up our next poll. The poll on the screen is, what is your industry vertical? And as you can guess, there's a lot of verticals out there, so you may need to scroll down on the right side of the slide window there to be able to see all the different verticals that are available as answers to this poll question. So while you're answering that question, I see some answers coming in already. Thank you. I'm going to announce that our second Amazon $500 gift card winner is Mohammed Nakak. Forgive me if I misspell it or mispronounce it there. Naccach from Tennessee. Mohammed Nakak from Tennessee. Congratulations. We have another Amazon $500 gift card to announce at the end of today's event, so make sure you stay tuned for that prize announcement. All right, let me share the results of this poll with you. And let's take a look here. 24% say they are at a technology company, 10% manufacturing, 12% healthcare. If you add up all the, kind of state, local, and educational organizations on there, that's also a very high percentage. 6% at a media company, 6% telecom, a real good representation of companies kind of all across the board being represented on the event. So thank you for answering that question. We'll have another poll question coming up. But now it is time for our next presentation on today's event. I'm excited to introduce Mr. Stacy Budd. He is a principal consultant in pre-sales at ArcServe. Stacy, are you with us?
Hey, good afternoon there. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks for being on, Stacy. Take it away.
Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk about cloud-based disaster recovery for virtual environments. We're going to speak to our Cloud Direct product. I'm going to tell you a little bit about ArcServe as a company, tell you a little bit about the product itself, and then we're going to take a little bit of time to actually look at it there as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so if you're not familiar with ArcServe as a company, right, we've been in the disaster recovery, business continuity business for a very long time. We have a worldwide presence, right? We have customers all across the globe, partners all across the globe. We have products from software solutions to appliances to cloud-based, direct-to-cloud-based solutions, which is what we're going to focus on today as well. When we look at, business continuity and the need for it, right, this shouldn't be a surprise to any of you out there today, right, that we see that, the risk that you stand to have out there now, right? You can have financial loss, you can have, damage to your reputation, you can decrease your company value, right? There's a lot of risk, and that risk keeps growing. It seems like, I wouldn't even say year over year, month after month, really, when we look at that as well. Right? We really can't afford to have, downtime, right? So solutions that we have out there, email. Who can really afford nowadays not to receive emails? Business is done over email, so much. And then you other things like healthcare, ERP systems, e-commerce. And you think of companies like Amazon. What would be the risk to a company like that if their web servers went down for even an hour or even 30 minutes maybe, right? So definitely e-commerce, very important there, because if you're on a website, right, and you go to order something and it's not available, instead of, I'll come back tomorrow, you're probably going to say, well, where else can I get it? Can I get it from another big box store or something like that? And you're just going to move on. So definitely, people do not have patience or tolerance anymore, which is forcing companies to make sure that their services are always available as far as that goes. The availability myth, right? So when you look at availability, right, disaster avoidance promises, right, people promise that your data is going to be available. It's always going to be available. When you look at reality, though, and a lot of IT pros know, how long it's going to actually take to do that recovery and perform those RTOs and get those RTOs up to where they need to be, right? So whereas it used to be RTO for days, right, was acceptable, then it went to hours, and now it almost goes to where, we need it in a matter of minutes, right? And RPOs need to be just as quick, right? What good is it to have an RTO of a few minutes if your RPO is 24 hours old? So you need to also be able to move up that RPO there as well. When we look at ArcServe Cloud Direct and how this actually addresses this business need, and how it addresses it, number one, what do we see, right? Mitigating threats from ransomware, security breaches. We're aligning businesses with IT service, right? Giving you better RTOs and RPOs. We're going to speak to that in a moment. We're helping you meet those tolerances, right? Giving you, less than an hour, less than 2 hours, RPO and RTO within that as well, right? We're decreasing that IT cost, right? Which is always going to be very important for you as well. And then also being able, when we look at the right side of the slide, it's all about saving money, from a financial perspective, and being able to implement a solution that's going to fit into your budget. When you look at the ArcServe Cloud Direct product, there's two solutions. There's backup as a service, and there's disaster recovery as a service. Backup as a service is going to give you the ability to back up your data and have it off-site in the cloud, in the ArcServe cloud, in our data centers, and available for restores either at file level or image level if you need to do that. Disaster recovery as a service is going to go above that, and it's going to give you the ability to spin up those servers up into the ArcServe cloud. So not only are you going to be looking at storage, but also being able to have compute and be able to turn those systems on from a disaster recovery as a service. Our goal is for you to get those servers up and running in less than 5 minutes. Some applications may take a few minutes longer to boot. Databases may take a few more minutes to boot, different things like that. But definitely, we want to have that process where you click a button and you can turn on those servers very quickly and access them. That's going to be the other side of it, is what good is it if you can turn on those servers if you're not accessing that data quickly. So we also work with you from a connectivity standpoint so that ahead of time you can be pre-planned and be able to connect into those systems as well, whether it's from point to point or point to site connectivity. We plan that ahead of time, so at time of failover you're not trying to figure out how to perform this. Okay. Also, when you look at the data sets, right, we span all different size customers. We have customers with, gigabytes of data up there, and we have customers, I know that we have customers with close to a petabyte of data up there, right? So really kind of our product is optimized, right, to work with enterprise type solutions, take advantage of things like multi-threading, and WAN optimization to be able to send that data quickly across the web as well. When you look at backup as a service, right, you're directly backing up the data, to the ArcServe infrastructure, ArcServe cloud. There's no on-site infrastructure required for this, so it's a direct-to-cloud backup solution. You're going to manage that through a web-based management console that you can access from anywhere. Right? When you look at from a security standpoint, your data is going to be encrypted in motion and at rest. You have multiple recovery options, and then you can, automate that protection for things like files and databases and email and those kind of things as well, including server images. Now, DRES key features, when we look at this, right, what are we going to give you? We're going to give you the ability to spin up those systems in under 5 minutes, right? So you can quickly fail over to those systems. You should automatically test this. We also do some testing as well on our end, but we urge you to perform your own DR test as well. When we look at compatibility and what we support, we integrate with Active Directory. We work with both physical and virtual. We do have, from a virtual standpoint, we do have support for agentless protection for VMware and Hyper-V, but we don't stop there. If you had Xen or you had KVM or some other type of hypervisor, we could protect those environments as well. We would just do an agent-based for those environments, so we could still support that as well. We're going to work with you to pre-provision out that connectivity, that VPN connectivity, work with you on what ports you need to have open for your firewall and all of that as well. Cost is always going to be a factor, right? We like to think that we're competitive with other cloud solutions out there, Amazon and Azure. There's no cost to pull your data back down or anything like that, or you need to spin up your servers. We've already let you know what that cost is going to be up front. You pay for a subscription and you're done, right? So there's no hidden cost. Now you actually need to use the product. We're going to charge you. We don't do that. Just like backup as a service, from a security standpoint, that data is going to be encrypted in motion and at rest, and you do have access to the US-based support team for this product as well. Okay. Automated DR testing, always very important. Push button recovery, we're going to show you that as well. And then when we look at the web-based UI, I'm going to show you that UI here in just a moment so you can get an idea of what that looks like. When we look at some of our use cases out there, right, what are some of the important things? No on-premise hardware requirements. So this is great for branch offices, right? Although we do have just companies use it for all of their locations, even their primary locations, right? But anywhere you don't want to put any type of hardware or infrastructure into the environment, and you just want to back up directly to cloud. We do give you an option to back up local as well, to keep the latest copy there if you want to do that, so that maybe if you didn't want to restore from the cloud, you always have that option as well. You know, not having that infrastructure in place, right? This is key for partners, you know, to be a lot more profitable. They can go through, and it helps with multi-tenancy. It is a multi-tenant product. It's kind of funny because I've had a lot of companies that aren't MSPs, but they're still looking for very similar functionality in multi-tenancy. In the schools, maybe they have multiple locations. They don't want people at the different schools being able to access all the data, only their data. Also had global companies that want to use the multi-tenant view for the different branches that they have across the world and there as well. And lastly, when we look at, you know, large data sets and everything like that as well, again, remember this product, because of the multi-threading, you know, it very efficiently sends the data out, and after the initial backup, we're going to be sending the change blocks across too. So it very efficiently sends that data across. When we look at, you know, a specific scenario here, right, a construction firm, you know, with hundreds of job sites, this is really realistic because maybe, you know, they roll out to a new job site, they roll a trailer out there, and they're ready to go, right? There's nothing they have to worry about deploying servers or any of that. They're ready to start backing up this data. All they need is their internet connectivity to start being able to back up to that, right? So definitely a realistic and a common kind of customer for us. You know, and when you look at things like the Midwest, sometimes you don't have as well of bandwidth available in some locations, and the fact that we perform that WAN optimization, multi-threading, bandwidth limiting, and all of that as well really works well with these type of customers. Giving them the ability to, if they lose power or that site goes down, being able to quickly fill that over in the cloud and then be able to bring those changes back down once they're done. What are the benefits? Clearly, you know, less than 5-minute failover, being able to failover quickly, also being able to pre-provision and pre-configure your connectivity so that when you do failover, you don't have to worry about those kind of pieces as well. Okay. So what platforms do we support? I kind of mentioned this as we went through, but VMware and Hyper-V for agentless backup, bare metal systems, Windows, Linux, and Mac, no problem. And there's for files and folders, Windows systems for disaster recovery as a service. And we even support, you know, some older operating systems like XP and Server 2003 as well. Okay, so to be able to give you that support out there. When you look at the technology itself, okay, and the platform, we have the management portal, which allows you to connect into for monitoring. You can have users connect to it to do their own restores and give them that capability to do that there. When we look at the software itself for your environment, there would be an agent that would get installed on any of your physical machines. But again, we're here to primarily talk about virtualization. So, you know, for VMware and Hyper-V for VMware, there would be a OVA file, a virtual appliance you can install. And on Hyper-V, you would install the agent directly on the hypervisor to be able to give yourself that level of support. Of course, we're going to be able to give you the tools to be able to do your reporting and all that there as well. I think I missed, you know, our standards-based stateless architecture, you know, and all of that as well within there, right? APIs for MSPs and third parties, you know, to white label this product. So if you wanted to put your logo on there and have it be from you, we could absolutely support that as well. When we look at the cloud infrastructure, right, your data is going to be be backed up to our cloud infrastructure, and then that's where we have the tools and the reporting features and all of that within there. If we go through the backup as a service infrastructure, and we start here at number one, you have your client server that you're backing up with your different applications and solutions that are on there. They're going to be backed up directly to the ArcServe cloud infrastructure, which is either going to be a data center on the west or east coast. And we do also have a data center in England too. So if we have anybody from across the pond, we do have the ability to support that as well. And again, managed from your ArcServe portal, so you don't need to be on site. You could be at a coffee shop on a weekend, log in, do whatever you need to do, and be able to manage it from there. What we gain with disaster recovery as a service, we have that same mapping. We can still go East Coast, West Coast, or England for that matter. And then you're going to add that ability to take and spin up those systems in the infrastructure. It's pre-planned, it's pre-configured for connectivity so that you're able to quickly not only spin those servers up, but then be able to access those servers too. When we look at ArcServe as a company, definitely a wide portfolio of solutions all the way from high availability to archiving and everything in the middle, disaster recovery, backup and recovery, and all those pieces as well. So make sure if you have a need for any type of backup or business continuity, you take a look at ArcServe. What we're going to do now is I'm going to go through and share out my screen, and we're going to take a very quick kind of brief look through the disaster recovery as a service product, the Cloud Direct product. So go ahead and share my screen here. All right, we're just going to go ahead and sign in. So I'm on our website, and we just access the website, put in your credentials, and once you have those credentials and you're able to go to systems, you're able to quickly download the Cloud Direct agent on a system, or for the case of VMware, download the OVA file and take and deploy that out into your virtual environment, and it'll discover your VMware environment for you. Once you have that deployed, and in the case of virtualization, what you're going to do is it'll discover that environment, and you're going to enable backup on any of the systems that you want to back up. We could do some auto discovery as well. So like every night at midnight, if you want to auto sync those, we can definitely perform that as well. You can also turn that off and just do a manual refresh if you want to do that there too. Once you have those systems flagged for backup, you're going to come in here and you're going to enable your backup. And you can have multiple backup plans. So for instance, if this is my laptop that we have right here, and we can go through and I'm backing up my documents folder. If I wanted to back up other folders, I could go through here and add additional files and folders, do excludes, perform excludes if I want to do that. Also keep a local backup of the latest. If I needed to do that and wanted to have a local backup, I could do that there as well. We can also put in network throttles, and you'll notice that this backup is a daily backup. So this is not flagged for disaster recovery as a service. This particular backup is flagged as a backup as a service. So it's going to be a daily backup, and you can set the time that you want it to run, what days of the week do you want it to run, and then you can automatic updates and those kind of things as well if you want to do that. You can also start the backup out of rotation if you want to do that, and stop it there as well. For the disaster recovery as a service, we have an Exchange server here that I'm backing up, so we can go in, look at the configuration of that. Now I can choose that backup schedule. Do I want it to be every hour, every 6 hours, every 15 minutes? So we can definitely get to a very granular backup policy here as far as that goes. Now this is disaster recovery as a service, so I'm grabbing the entire drive. You can choose which volumes you want to back up. So if you didn't want to back up all the volumes, you could exclude and do those kind of things there. Everything else you'll notice is very similar. Advanced options, being able to take and perform those automatic upgrades, enroll in beta, keep a local copy of the backup, all of that's there as well. Network throttling, those pieces are going to be there too. If we look at our backup task, you're going to be grabbing the images and the entire system in order to do that. All right. From a restore perspective, we're going to choose restore on a system. Choose that backup that I'm doing. I only had one there, so I chose it. And then choose your date, and you can browse to your different dates. View that recovery point, go down and browse into it. And in this case, choose the file, the folder that you want to restore. There's a couple of different ways that you could restore. You could restore directly through the agent itself, right? Or what you could do is you could always map this location as well and restore in that method. So a couple of different ways where you could go through and perform those different restores that you needed to do. From a disaster recovery perspective, our disaster recovery tab is going to have the different systems that we have flagged for disaster recovery. This is also where we're going to go in ahead of time and set up your connectivity, your point-to-site connectivity, or your site-to-site connectivity. Any firewall exceptions, port forwarding, anything that we need to do, we're going to work with you ahead of time so that that's pre-planned. And then we're going to go through and once you have that system available, all you need to do is choose activate. You're going to choose the backup time that you want to activate from. And then you'll go through and activate VM, and that VM will come online, you know, in less than 5 minutes in most cases. This is an Exchange server. It takes a little bit longer to start up. So, I mean, it would take a little bit longer. Also, we're going to give you screenshots of that system starting up so that you have that available to see that the system does start up in that too. But we do encourage you to come through, activate the systems, log in, make sure everything's working, you know, and do your own manual tests as well. To kind of wrap it up, the last little bits of pieces here that we have different volumes, right? So we're looking at the single tenant view here. You could have different volumes with different retentions, maybe different locations. You could have a disaster recovery volume with its own retention. It'll default to a 7-day retention. You can also do a custom retention. You can go through and pretty much any retention you want to set all the way up to a forever retention and be able to do that as well. You can also define where that is, whether it's going to be on the East Coast or West Coast. Reports, we give you a daily usage report. It's going to be a one-up report that has all your systems in it, and it shows everything from backup to restore to any type of account activity. It's all going to be within that. It gets an email that gets automatically sent to you every day. You can also set up individual reports. So if you wanted to see like a backup report, you could come in here and run those reports either on demand or create a report where it comes out on a schedule and you get that as well. Maybe you don't even want it to come to you. You want it to come to somebody else. They don't need to be a user on the portal, so you can have that report get generated and sent to somebody that doesn't even need to access it, but at least they can see that the data is being backed up and all that too. We don't stop at backup reports. We have restore reports, data transfer reports, all that account activity, all of those alerts, restore alerts, those kind of things as well. Last little piece to hit on here is user access. Okay, there's 3 different roles. We have the admin role, which is what I'm using here. The admin can do everything. Right? They can perform restores. They can perform configuration of backups, edit the storage, edit the tickets, create and manage tickets. They can pretty much do everything. You do also have the storage role, which all they're going to do is manage the volumes. They're going to be able to open and close tickets. And then lastly, a restore role, which is where you can give users the ability to go in and restore their own data, right? That they can't really manage anything, but they can perform their own restores. We can also turn on Google two-factor authentication to give you the ability to have a more secure kind of connectivity if that is something that's important to you as well. So all you would do is choose Add User, put in the user's email, their name, and the role that you want to assign that user, and then they would have the ability then to log into the portal and be able to have those access rights. All right, so that is the end of my presentation today. We do have a few minutes for questions, so please, make sure you hit us up with some questions so that we can go ahead and answer those.
Absolutely, yeah, great presentation, Stacy. Love to see the live demo. Love to see it in action, backing up and restoring. So if you're out there in the audience and you thought of a question while Stacy was presenting, now's the time to ask it. We do have some questions already coming in. So let's see here, Stacy's first one is, when it comes to Cloud Direct, how does the infrastructure management work with that?
How does the infrastructure management work with Cloud Direct?
Yes.
Okay. Not sure I understand the question as far as the cloud itself. We are standards-based and all of that, so we're going to meet all those requirements. From a management perspective, you're going to log into the console and you're going to manage everything through that console. I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe we get a little clarification on it.
Yeah, so in other words, I guess, from an administrative perspective, I don't have to manage the servers or the storage or anything like that in the ArcServe cloud with Cloud Direct, right? That's basically offloaded from me. Is that true?
Oh yeah, absolutely, right? So as far as being able to manage like a hypervisor up there to be able to spin up all those systems, when we work with you, it's from that perspective, we're going to work with you on what kind of resources do you need to have those systems in for us to spin them up, and we're going to go through and pre-plan all of that. So once you need to fail over, all you're going to do is click that button to activate, and it's going to spin that system up for you, and you're going to be able to access it. We wanted it to be very much one button click and choose which backup you want to spin up from.
Got it. And then another question here, they're asking, where are the ArcServe Cloud data centers located? Can you share any info about that?
Oh, absolutely. So we have two locations. We have one in Secaucus, New Jersey, and the other one is Santa Clara, California. I think we're about to maybe announce another one in the U.S. as well. And then our third one is in, of course, England.
Okay, nice. And then, compared to maybe some of the other offerings that you've seen out there, this person's asking basically like what makes Cloud Direct unique, if you could kind of sum it up.
Right, so Cloud Direct is designed for enterprise level protection, right? It does take advantage of things like multi-threading. By default, we're going to use 10 threads, right, to quickly get your data up and utilize your bandwidth to be able to do that. Of course, you don't want to be in the middle of the day and us eating up all your bandwidth, so you can throttle that piece down, and we can also throttle that up, right? So instead of 10 threads, right, we can get up to 32 threads and really utilize your bandwidth. Also, because it is WAN optimized, it's intelligent, be able to pick up where it left off if you lose connectivity and those kind of things. So definitely, when you look at the Cloud Direct product, it is more of an enterprise-based solution being down at the mid-market, if you will. But from a features function standpoint, how we're going to get your data up to the web, how quickly we can send it up there. Usually we can send most data, you replicate it up to our cloud before you could seed it to our cloud in most cases.
Okay. And then another question that came in here, they're asking, does ArcServe only support Cloud Direct, or does it support other public cloud offerings to store your data?
Great question. So Cloud Direct is directly to the ArcServe cloud. However, we do support with our ArcServe UDP solution, we do support not only the ArcServe cloud, but we also support Amazon or AWS, Amazon and Azure, right, as well as private cloud, right? And then with our high availability solution, we would support Amazon, Azure, we would support private clouds in that cases as well. So although we'd love for you to use our solution, we do realize people are standardized on other cloud environments, so we do have solutions that can go to those as well.
Okay. And then let's see, and I've got another question for you here, Stacy, but while we answer that, for the audience, I've popped up a poll question. It says, how are you using cloud solutions today? And this is a multi-select answer, so you can select not just one, but as many different types of cloud solutions as you may be using. And of course, if you're using none of those, then you can select none of these as the final answer at the bottom. But I appreciate your help answering that question. So Stacy, another question here they're asking is, when it comes to Cloud Direct, does it support Windows, Linux, or Mac and Mac?
So Cloud Direct does support all those platforms, Windows, Linux, Mac. For disaster recovery as a service, it's a Windows Server solution for disaster recovery as a service. For files and folders, it opens up to Windows, for Windows, Linux, and Mac for those. And if it's a virtualized Linux server, we could perform disaster recovery as a service on that box as well.
Okay. And then another question, Bob, here, he's asking, when you go to deploy ArcServe, if I want to back up my infrastructure, like what hypervisor, I mean, is ArcServe a virtual appliance that deploys into the hypervisor? Is it a hardware appliance? How does that work?
Right. So for a VMware environment, there's an OVA file that you can download, so it's a virtual appliance, right? So you download that, it'll auto-discover your environment, and then you can start flagging those systems to be backed up, right? For Hyper-V, you have the ability to download that replication agent on the hypervisor itself. Then it's going to list out the virtual machines on that hypervisor, and then you can start agentlessly protecting those. The replication agent's a lightweight agent, less than 10 megs in size, so very small agent and small footprint.
Okay, very nice. So how do people typically get started with ArcServe?
Sure, so great question. If you go to arcserve.com and you give it just a second, you'll get a pop-up that offers you a free trial of the product. It gives you the option to download all of our different products, and you'll get almost immediately a welcome email from me or one of my counterparts, offering you assistance. So, you can reach out to us if you have any questions on those kind of things. And then, we're there to help you with configuration, any technical questions you might have, and then also as you go through the process, if you have pricing questions, things like that, we can get you over to the appropriate salespeople.
Great. Well, I think that's all the questions we have for today, but thanks so much for being on the event, Stacy.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
For more information on ArcServe and their Cloud Direct solution, of course, visit arcserve.com. Also, check out the handout that's available there for download in your console. I want to call your attention to the results of the poll today. The question was, how are you using cloud solutions? And as you can see, it was a multi-select question, so it's not going to add up here to 100%. But 18% say they are using Salesforce or Office.com, SaaS-type applications. 10% say they're using infrastructure as a service type applications. 10% PaaS, platform as a service. 8% private cloud solutions. 10% backup or disaster recovery as a service. And 13% say none of these, but they're learning and planning for the future. So thank you for answering that poll question. And now it's time for today's final presentation on the Cloud EcoCast. I'm excited to introduce Mr. Troy Mangum. He is the Product Marketing Manager for NetApp. Troy, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Thanks for being on the event today. Take it away.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about NetApp HCI from a private cloud standpoint and a hybrid cloud standpoint. So let's go ahead and get started. So one of the things that you'll see here in this presentation is this juxtaposing what is currently today what we consider traditional infrastructure and what is really driving HCI. On the left-hand side, you can really see that in the heyday of traditional infrastructure, you had to really go after being a specialist, and then you would also, that specialty would actually stitch all the components together. As we're seeing today, far more people are becoming less and less specialists in vendor X or vendor Y or vendor Z, and they really are expecting vendors like NetApp and others to deliver something that is simple, that delivers what they need for their business, but they don't actually need to be storage experts, server experts, or virtualization experts, etc. And that's really what is driving the growth of the HCI market. NetApp does consider us to deliver the first enterprise-scale hyperconverged infrastructure. What we mean by that is our architecture is all flash. We are basically helping our customers plan for the future by not building on a legacy architecture. So hybrid storage or hybrid, spinning disk, it really is something of legacy where you've got flash tiers and you have to be very conscientious where your data is to get the performance you need out of it. But NetApp HCI is all flash from the design of the operating system all the way up. And with that comes the ability to provide robust data services, so inline compression, post-process compression, inline dedupe, etc., what you would expect out of a SAN, but we're actually delivering it within NetApp HCI. It's easy to manage, and we have flexible building blocks, which I'll be getting into. So when you do compare us between all flash counterparts that are out there where they have a flash offering for HCI, we by far are the lowest TCO between us and our top competitors. One of the reasons is that we have actually chosen an architecture that allows the most flexibility. So as you grow your data center or your applications, you're not needing to add unnecessary compute if your application doesn't need it, or unnecessary storage if your application doesn't need it. And that really drives actually a smaller footprint, which translates into less cost. And there's no surprise that from a performance standpoint, we blow everyone out of the water as we've really created this NetApp architecture based on an acquisition that we made of SolidFire, which is in its 10th revision, so it's a very mature platform. So speaking of how we are unique, we really have 4 pillars that we stand on. Predictable performance, and I would add predictable availability there. We'll get into that. A flexible design, which is unique in the HCI market. Simplified operations, and the integration into NetApp Data Fabric, i.e. hybrid cloud. And these are the top clouds of the world, so the Googles, the Amazons, the Azures, and all of the announcements that we've made with those partners that we effectively have exclusive partnerships with. You get access to all of that via NetApp HCI. So on the predictable performance piece, one of the things that this platform is built off of is the ability to build as-a-service services from this platform. So the architecture actually comes from someone that used to work at Rackspace, where they basically had to build and bill off of service-level agreements, and they had to deliver on those service-level agreements regardless if you're running SAP, VDI, SQL, Oracle, or any other proprietary applications that your business may be running. So the architecture of NetApp HCI is based on the ability to guarantee performance. We're not talking about making sure that this application or these VMs don't mess with these VMs. A lot of vendors have that. Not a lot of vendors have what we call minimum quality of service, which is a minimum guarantee. You will be guaranteed that your application in a workload consolidated use case will have the optimal performance experience, so you don't have to build HCI silos, which a lot of the vendors, a lot of the customers that we know that have chosen to go with HCI before we released our products, a lot of what they end up with are silos. In our case, you don't have to build a silo. You can actually do one cluster and allow the software to be intelligent enough to deliver the experience that the hardware is capable of. You don't have to worry about where the data is either, whether it's local or et cetera. It's all going to be in the cluster. So we can guarantee that performance. Here's an example. So this is, you can look this up. It's a technical report 4652. And what we did is we took MongoDB, SQLDB, and VDI and ran them in parallel on a NetApp HCI system. And what we did is we effectively did what we call a boot storm. So this would be, people coming in for VDI, they're logging in, and this was what you would expect if it's not protected, meaning that if you have databases that are critical to your business and their performance is critical to your business, people logging in should not affect this. Most people handle this by overbuying hardware and making sure that you have a dedicated HCI silo for application A or application B. But in our case, you can actually use our software and the intelligence of our software, which is in its 10th revision, to guarantee the minimum performance for VDI, for Mongo, for SQL, and you don't have to buy extra hardware or worry about CPU pinning or anti-affinity rules or making sure you have specialized hardware, such as other storage nodes that you can't get access to for the virtual machines. You actually get to use all of your resources for your application to get the most optimal experience. So check out that TR, and you can see more on that. One of the things that's also good in making sure that the software, the intelligence of the software is actually driving your application experience is we can dynamically change your minimum settings. What that means is that we don't have to worry about where the data if the data is local or not. We don't have to worry about migrating data in case you need a different experience. It is truly simple at any scale that we provide, and I'll hit the scale points here in a moment. So you can dynamically change it. If you're not getting the performance you need out of your Oracle database or SQL or any other application, you can actually change it on a slide to say, I need more performance, and you can get that more performance just so the full cluster is within that performance ability. And just as a side note, effectively our starting footprint for performance is 200,000 IOPS on the low side and 400,000 IOPS on the high side, and you only go up from there as far as performance. We have min, which I've talked about, max, which is ensuring that noisy neighbors don't bother each other, and then we have burst, where you can go up to 20 times or more what you need for your application up to a minute. This actually drives a lot of density. Again, no need to overbuy on the hardware side, no need to ensure that you got buffers in with certain CPUs tied to certain virtual machines, or that you're underneath 70% threshold capacity. You can use the entire system. It will actually perform the way it's expected to because the intelligence is in the software, not tied to where the data is and if you've got dedicated resources or not from the hardware standpoint. Another predictable metric that we have is predictable availability. This ties to our many-to-many architecture. So in this particular case, we are a RAID-less architecture, so if you have disk failures or node failures, we will guarantee that you will be back up and running at your optimal rate. Now, the performance will not degrade. The only thing that's compromised is having the redundancy of your data. And so we have the way our data platform works is that you can have 2 copies of the data. So if a disk fails, there will be potentially parts of the secondary copy that will be tied to that disk. that will be all rebuilt without any human intervention, and you'll be back up and running with 2 copies of the data within 10 minutes. If there's a full controller failure, you'll be back up and running within 60 minutes. And that is the predictable nature of our availability. Again, no human intervention required, i.e. you can have not as granular support services, which really drives out costs because you don't need to worry about getting equipment to you quickly when the system is intelligent enough to heal itself and give you protection as well as performance during a degraded state. So let's talk about our flexibility. So we are unique in the HCI system is that we've actually decoupled the storage nodes from the compute nodes. There was a fantastic presentation that we did with the Tech Field Days where independent analysts basically grilled NetApp on why did we architect NetApp HCI the way we did when there's other options out there in the market. We effectively go through what our justification was and why we architecturally chose to decouple this architecture. One of the key pieces is that no data center grows linearly, and no applications grow linearly as well. Sometimes you need more compute, such as in the VDI case. Sometimes you need more capacity, such as in the database case. We give the customer the ability to scale on their terms, and we don't necessarily hide fees in there. So one of the hidden fees that we avoid by doing this architecture is that when you need more capacity for your database, when you add storage capacity for your database, you are not hitting the software licensing cost on the compute nodes. So you don't have to, you can add capacity without driving up software licensing costs. That's one of the advantages of this architecture. And as you can see, you can start small, so our smallest footprint is 4U, and then our scale points is on the compute side. We can go up to the ESX cluster max, which is 64 nodes, and then on the storage side, we can go up to 40 storage nodes, and you can actually go above that as we have some of the cloud vendors that run today, not Amazon and Google, but the largest clouds outside of that actually run our software storage architecture today at higher volumes than 40, and we actually can go higher than that, and all you have to do is request it in sale. So let's talk about some of the distinction between our offering for private cloud, and I'll be getting into hybrid cloud here in a moment, and others' offerings. So in the case that I just described, you may have an application that needs more memory and CPU. When you go with other vendors, effectively you are adding storage that is going to be either underutilized or that's going to be stranded. In our case, if your application needs more memory and CPU, all you need to do is add a compute node, and there's no unnecessary purchase of resources you don't need. Here's another example, and again, this is a good database example where you're going to actually need more storage. So in this case, when you add that node from other HCI vendors, you actually drive up your software licensing costs because there are more CPUs available for that software to charge for. In our case, you can add storage nodes, and you don't add anything to the software licensing cost. The thing I will say is unique to us is when you add storage nodes, you add either 50,000 or 100,000 IOPS of performance every node you add, plus you add the 100% of the capacity for your virtual machines. In other architectures, when you add storage nodes, the virtual machines actually don't get to use it. It just becomes a replica target, so the architecture can maintain underutilizing its resources to ensure that you get a positive experience. Another unique thing that we have from NetApp HCI is the open storage model. This allows you to use external compute. So we know that there are many brownfield opportunities where you've got compute, you're paying for support. You would actually like to gain the benefits that I'm describing about guaranteed performance, flexible design, SAN-like efficiency with inline dedupe and compression, but you still are paying for the compute you have. You actually can use that external compute if you so desire and point it to our storage nodes and gain all the benefits that we described. And then when that comes end of life, you can just add more compute nodes into your HCI cluster. So we do have 3 options today, and we'll have more options in the very near future, applications. And on the right-hand side, you see what you can expect out of our efficiencies for cases like VDI. And one thing I'll note about our efficiencies is they are always on. They don't cost you more memory. They don't cost you more CPU. We provide this out of the box for free, if you will, tax-free, so that you get to actually use the full amount of what you've purchased. On the right-hand side, you can see our compute nodes. They range on the cores as well as the memory, and we'll be providing far more options in this in the very near future on the compute side. And we are running 10 and 25 gig. So let's talk about simplified operations. So we've built an installer that allows you to get this environment, regardless of size, up and running under 45 minutes, which is very important when you're needing to spin up new HCI clusters. A new offering that we have is now you can effectively onboard compute and or storage seamlessly through this NetApp deployment engine as well and bring them online super easy. We have great integrations with VMware. That is how all of this is managed through vCenter. And we are delivering vRealize plugins as well, so you can have your self-service portal for your private cloud, and you can also have all the performance levels that you would like to make visible for your customers, as well as protection levels. One of the things that we're proud of is that we are the first HCI vendor to actually offer an efficiency guarantee. That means that if we do not deliver on what we promise from an efficiency standpoint, that we are driving out costs in your system and driving density through thin provisioning, inline compression, post-process compression, then we will actually make you whole if we do not stand by that. And here's an example of a 7-to-1 efficiency that we will guarantee with VDI if you happen to only use that for that. So let's talk about hybrid cloud. So NetApp has gone to market with Google, Amazon, and Azure. We have deep integrations and more to come with those 3 vendors. And we have integrations with some of the largest clouds coming out of the APAC region as well in the very near future. Here, what you have is NetApp HCI in the center and the ability to do backup and DR directly into the cloud. And one of the things that we are proud of is that we are taking forward all of our integrations to ensure that you are getting the optimal use of your lines in between the cloud and you and the WAN, and you are not having to actually expand any of this because it's all within the NetApp ecosystem. So we use SnapMirror as our technology to go from a backup standpoint. We also have integrations with Veeam, but we do backup and DR directly into the cloud. We can do SnapMirror replications from NetApp HCI to HCI or ONTAP in what we call NetApp Private Storage, which allows you to have equipment or rent equipment at any data center that has dark fiber between them and the public clouds. We have integrations with our object store, so you can actually back up large images into an object store with Storage Grid. We have the #1 file operating system, which is ONTAP, running as a virtual appliance on NetApp HCI. So we provide NFS and SIP better than anyone else in the market. We have great backup services with Cloud Backup. And then we also have disaster recovery and backup capabilities for other data centers that are actually running either SRM, or other HCI systems. So one of the examples that I'm going to show is around in-using computing. But these are the use cases that we are really well targeted for. So in this example with in-using computing, you can see that on the low end, we can do approximately 600 desktops at 200,000 IOPS. And this takes up a 4U space and is about 44 terabytes. But on the right-hand side, you can see that we can drastically grow this environment to come up to even over 21,000 desktops, well over 1.75 petabytes with 4 million IOPS. So we really have the ability to start small and scale as large as you need. And note that our efficiencies are completely global. They're not tied to worrying about disk groups or where your data is or tied to hosts. All of our efficiencies are global. In fact, our systems, NetApp HCI, will maintain its simplicity and gain in speed and efficiencies the more nodes you add, in addition to capacity. Here's an example where effectively we're running Windows 10, which does require high-end graphics, and shows here that using an industry standard benchmark, where was our threshold for a single node before we hit 4 milliseconds response times, which would be unacceptable in a VDI case. When we ran this, you could see that our density for our compute nodes goes from 82 desktops on the low end to 180 per node for a NetApp HCI system. So these offerings are only going to get denser as we provide more offerings on the compute side in the very near future. So in summary, NetApp HCI will deliver predictable performance, which we believe is critical if you're running applications or a private cloud in which you're having multiple applications run in parallel and you're wanting to have an optimal experience per application, and you're tired of building hardware silos that are federated management with the UI. You can actually truly build a cluster that is optimized through software. We integrate with any cloud. I've mentioned the 3 that we are been working with and will continue to innovate with. We have deployed a flexible design, which is unique in the HCI systems, that you get full access to the storage nodes that you add. And the thing I didn't mention is we have complete interoperability between all that we offer and the next generation of what we're going to be offering. So you don't have to worry about having specialized hardware that won't work with other hardware. We pride ourselves in the interoperability between all of our offerings. And then we have simplified operations. Thank you so much, and I'll take any questions that you may have about this and our offerings.
Great presentation, Troy. Thank you. Yeah, we do have some good questions here for you. So let's see, first one here, Benjamin, he's asking, what's the minimum building block for NetApp HCI?
So the minimum building block is 2 compute nodes, because you need 2 for an ESX cluster, and 4 storage nodes. You need 3 for Quorum and 1 for HA. And okay, so that, nice. And that takes up a 4U footprint. Our chassis are 2U and can house 4 blades in the 2U system, which are completely interoperable. It could be all compute, all storage, or any mixture of those 2.
Okay. And let's see, what public clouds does NetApp interface with?
Amazon, Google, IBM Cloud, and Azure.
Okay. What about, do you support additional hypervisors, and do you support bare metal?
Yes, we support bare metal. If we do support additional hypervisors, but it's not integrated into the installer. So that's where we get into the open storage model. So we do support additional hypervisors, but we will not install the additional hypervisors. We only install VMware. We will be continually enhancing our install, which is called the NetApp Deployment Engine, in the near future, and then that's where other hypervisors will be integrated into the install process. But we do support other hypervisors through the open storage model and bare metal.
Okay, nice. Another question here, they're asking, you mentioned reducing software licensing costs. How does NetApp HCI actually reduce software licensing?
We effectively, because the software licensing for backup and databases and VMware are tied to the compute CPUs, because we've decoupled the hardware, every time that you need to grow, if you can grow storage capacity at no cost to the software licensing. And so that's where we said we've reduced that, whereas other vendors because of their shared core architecture, every time you add a block or a node with other vendors, you directly add to the software licensing cost because it, effectively is CPU that are available for licensing. The caveat to there is some vendors offer storage-only nodes, and so that will not add to software licensing costs, but that's not capacity or performance you get to use. It just is an offload target so that they can basically drain out the host and push off the replicas to that secondary system.
Got it. And I guess probably the final question is for people who want to, learn more or see NetApp HCI in action. What do you recommend? Is there a demo? Should they talk to their VAR? What should they do?
So I would encourage you to talk to your partners because NetApp is very much a partner-friendly company. From a standpoint of, I'll answer it two ways. From a business standpoint, I would go to netaphci.com. netapp.com and just look for the NetApp HCI product. For the techies in the audience, I would send them directly to YouTube, type in Tech Field Day NetApp HCI, and it goes into a comparison of NetApp HCI architectures that are in the market today and where their intellectual property is, where have they spent their engineering dollars. And effectively out of that, we essentially say you want to bank your company and your applications on proven underpinning technology and not a pretty UI. But we talk about it with independent analysts that, grill us, and it's a great discussion for techies. So I'd send you to YouTube for that.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, the Tech Field Day videos are always great. Great option to learn more about NetApp HCI. Thanks for being on the event today, Troy.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you.
Just wrap up the event today and make sure everyone hears the final prize winner. So the final winner of an Amazon $500 gift card was Andrea Welsh from Illinois. Congratulations, Andrea. If you weren't one of the winners of the 3 gift cards today, make sure that you join us for a future event that we have coming up. All of our events are posted over at events.actualtechmedia.com. And you can register for all of our events there, and we've got some really valuable prizes and some really fantastic presentations. In fact, the next event that we'll have is next week. It's the Disaster Recovery as a Service and Ransomware MegaCast event. So make sure you join us on that event. I think we have 8 presenters lined up for that from all different sorts of innovative enterprise technology companies that are going to help cover topics around disaster recovery as a service, and how to prevent ransomware. So it's going to be a great event. And finally, if you are a potential sponsor of a MegaCast or EcoCast event, please email sales@actualtechmedia.com if you're interested in presenting on one of our events. And with that, we've reached the end of this Cloud Solutions EcoCast. I want to say thank you to everyone who joined us on the event today. Thanks for sticking with us. I hope it was a very educational event today. I hope you learned a lot, saw some great solutions to help you and your company become more efficient and leverage the cloud in a variety of different ways. Thanks for joining us on the event, and have a great day. Bye-bye.